Wow. Okay, lighting sucks. Lighting sucks. Man, just all right. This is the best, great content episode with horrible technology issues that we're just gonna get through them. The content. John Trepanowski, who was a guest on the show 2 years ago, talking about his experience in doing the man-to-man weekend and being on a men's team. Now comes back having just finished reading Infinite Jest, which is no easy feat. Infinite Jest, 1,000-page book written by David Foster Wallace, published in 1996. David Foster Wallace famously killed himself 10 years later, approximately. And I, before trying to read Infinite Jest, I was exposed to David Foster Wallace because he wrote some magazine pieces that were like super long, like 40-page nonfiction prose pieces. The first one I read of his was on Roger Federer, but it's just not your average sports article. So then he goes on, and I end up reading something about something that he wrote about AM radio, like conservative AM radio talk show hosts. And the one I remember the best, he wrote something about linguistics and basically the people who write and publish dictionaries. And he describes, there's different philosophies, and in that piece he takes down political correctness as a dialect of English, a written dialect of English, politically correct English. And I think he makes a very strong case for why political correctness is not polite, but kind of an insidious dishonesty that avoids solving problems. But he's just a fascinating writer, and he has a famous graduation speech that he gave called "This Is Water," and Infinite Jest is a difficult book, but I enjoyed reading it for a while during the pandemic. I got about 250 pages in and then pushed it to the back burner and never finished it. John, my guest, finished it this last year, and he has some thoughts on it. One of the overriding themes of his visit to the podcast is that Infinite Jest is very much about addiction, which obviously interests me, thus the title Screenaholics. Apparently, an addictive screen is very much a plot point in Infinite Jest, so this was apparently overdue, and we definitely had a lot to say. We went 3 hours, longest podcast I've ever had. Okay, the technical problem. There's a switch on this. This is the stupidest technical problem ever. There's a switch on this microphone. It was thankfully it was on my mic that was messed up, and what I was able to do was go back over those 45 minutes and dub like my own voice over. So like a later post interview, I listened and tried to transcribe what I said. It was very hard to hear, and then dubbed at a higher volume over the old recording where you can't really hear me. But I think the first 45 minutes might be a little bit of a rough listen for that reason. At 45 minutes, I was just kind of messing around, and I found the switch like come on, and we both kind of laugh. I mean, it's like I must have given him a look. So we knew something had happened. I mean, you can't tell. Although, interestingly, there's something happened when doing this, setting this up, and doing this dubbing thing where like I can hear a reverb talking into this mic now that I never heard before. So it's like I'm still discovering something about the technology here, and maybe I'll keep using these. I was thinking about just switching to Zoom and forgetting about these microphones altogether because I don't know. It's I've not mastered it yet. 20 episodes in, but I still do have a couple of more episodes in me, I believe. another literature episode coming up because I'm working on finishing a big book, and so maybe my mom will be back on the podcast to talk about it. I've got a cousin who could join us for that one, and beyond that, no definitive plans, but hopefully we'll keep it going. So thanks for your support. Don't be addicted to screens. Put your phone away. Go outside. Touch grass. Get out. Breathe some fresh air. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. Whoops. So press play. And here I'm saying, welcome to the podcast, John Trepanowski.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
And here's some stuff that I pretty much said in the intro. I said we talked about a lot of things. But today the talk is a book talk, and I tell them, oh yeah, you've talked a little bit about the online book talks already existing. So where do you want to fit into all that? You are talking about the book Infinite Jest, which has been reviewed many a time. So why don't you tell us about it, Infinite Jest, the book Infinite Jest, wherever you want to start. Tell us about it.
What's Infinite Jest, and
what do people say about it?
All right. So, have you seen Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I have, yes.
Okay. So my memory of it is that the climax of the story wraps itself up with to go, and that hour is just spent explaining all the resolution of like every character. It's like, here's character of 87th most importance to the story. We're going to make sure you know exactly what happened to him as well. It was like a really hand-holding of the viewer, of making sure every little like second that you invested into this story got a payoff at the end of a complete closure of knowing what happened. I've been thinking a lot about why Infinite Jest is not as highly regarded as I regard it, and why is there even a lot of criticism for, in my opinion, such an obviously great work. My opinion is the biggest reason is because Infinite Jest does the opposite of that, and I'll get to that in a second. For a little bit of context, I think there's just a general expectation of whatever work someone puts into something should be compensated with a commensurate amount of payoff. And so with Infinite Jest, it's almost as long as War and Peace in terms of word count. It arguably might take longer to read insofar as it's got Kafka-esque passages of multiple pages without a new paragraph going on, many sentences that run on for 100 words plus, and definitely many passages where David Foster Wallace is clearly making the words that he uses as complicated as possible.
You mentioned Kafka-esque. What's that? What would be Kafka-esque?
What I just said about multiple pages, single paragraph.
Yeah.
You've seen Kafka do that.
You've seen Kafka do that.
I saw J.D. Salinger
I
do
read
that.
The Trial over the summer and The Castle a few years earlier than that.
Okay. I saw J.D. Salinger.
J.D. Salinger.
What, Catcher in the Rye?
No, so there's this book, Raise the Roof Beam.
I've never read that.
No, not Freddie and Zoe. It's like Raise the Roof Beam, Carpenter, and Seymour. Two stories published together. In them, both the narrator is very self-conscious and just going on and saying things like, And by the way, parenthetically, long parentheses, some of the long paragraphs in Infinite Jest struck me as similar to that. Long paragraphs in Raise Up the Roof Beams, Carpenter by
Yeah,
Salinger.
yeah. And we can definitely dive into that, but just to finish the thought, like, so it has arguably the greatest ask for investing in a reader, and yet it concludes in the exact opposite of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, where in the central, and by the way, this is going to be a spoiler laden episode. I'm not going to hide. I don't think the book can be discussed.
It's not a suspense thriller.
Well, it's just the other videos on YouTube are already spoiling it. So I think people sort of understand that it's par for the course. It's also a very cross-sectional story. So while there is a lot of like heavy plot movement in the last like 200 pages for the first 1,000 or so, it's more about like static observations of things, and so there isn't that much relative to like other stories that can be spoiled. But there are some spoilers, and I'm gonna say what they are. So, Infinite Jest pertains to a movie by the same name within the book. It's also sometimes referred to as The Entertainment, and it's a film that is so addictive that people just lose all will to take care of like all of their normal responsibilities, including like basic bodily functions, eating, hydrating, etc. Catatonic, and they die. And so there's a big question of like, what happens to this film? Throughout much of the book, there's individual copies have been released into the wild, but the master copy remains unfound. And there's, kind of a question of are the good guys going to retrieve the master copy and thereby prevent its mass dissemination, or are the bad guys going to release it to everybody? And that doesn't get resolved clearly by the end of the book.
The spoiler is that there is no spoiler.
There's no definitive ending. Right.
Sopranos.
There are individual. So, another piece of context: the chronology of the story is told similar to how Pulp Fiction tells its story. It's not linear, and I bring that up because some people argue like, well, if you go to this earlier in sense of page number of the book, it does give this like little piece that, and for this reason I'm inferring here's the black and white answer of what happens to this tape, or any of the other unresolved questions in Infinite Jest. But I actually argue that's not what happens. You actually don't really, even in those passages that people are pointing to, they themselves are too gray for a black and white. And but here's the point. The story involves a protagonist, Don Gately, a man who, at the beginning, commits manslaughter.
He's robbing a home. I remember.
Yeah. Not armed.
They went up there. They tied the guy up who lived there.
Well, that's not armed.
So they were unarmed. They did it without a gun.
They didn't anticipate that a man would be there. And so, anyways, that part is not central to it.
There's 3 or 4 of them. They're burglarizing the home, and
yeah, they tie him up, gag him. The man who's gagged has a nasty cold. It blocks the nasal breathing, and he dies.
So my background on this book is that I've read 250 pages, so I remember some of this. It's 1,000 pages long, so I read 25%, quarter of the way through it, and this was 3 years ago when I did this. So I regret not finishing it, but that's why I know a little bit about it.
Yeah. So Don Gately has committed manslaughter. Um, that that crime actually goes undetected. It's one of those insofar as it's a crime with a dead body, it he's never fully in the clear of like, will they eventually trace this to me? But he's convicted of other much lesser crimes unrelated to that particular scene, and it winds up with him being sent to a drug recovery house where he does so well that he eventually becomes the manager. And he eventually one of the tenants in his house kills a dog intentionally. The dog owners try to retaliate and kill the dog killer, and our protagonist Don Gately saves that man. In the process, he gets shot and has to go to the hospital. He's laid up in the hospital for a while, and there's a parallel question of similar, like, what's going to happen, how will this resolve, parallel to will the Infinite Jest tape be disseminated. That parallel question is, are they going to give Demerol to Don Gately? Like the famous, like, oh my God, an addict receiving his favorite narcotic, and is this going to like trigger a relapse?
And that's also unresolved.
It's also unresolved. But it's not important, because what is important is that Don Gately finds a house, both in a literal sense and a figurative sense. Literal as in the recovery house, that he's a house manager. Figurative as in this has finally provided the structure that he can submit to, that is part of the drug addiction rehabilitative process. And it's because of that house that the question of, are the doctors going to give him Demerol or not? He's so fucked up, by the way, like coma wise, that he's coming in and out of consciousness and can't speak. So you hear the thoughts of his mind of like where he clearly doesn't want the Demerol, but he is unable to communicate that. And so it's largely out of his control whether the doctors will give him Demerol. But it doesn't matter, because he has that structure. It's far different than like him having chosen the drug. So those are two of the big examples of where David Foster Wallace has decided that he's not going to give people the Peter Jackson style resolution to this. And I think that is actually what's energizing much of the criticism from those who've completed the book.
Huh, so it's like they, without paying people off, in a way, you've created a work of art, a little self-consciously. Maybe people see it as, oh, this jerk thinks he's smart. He knows how smart he is. Which, I don't know why
Right.
paying people off with an ending would reduce that. I don't know if it really makes sense for people to draw that, to have that feeling with a work of art that doesn't pay people off. Work that pays people off could be by somebody who thinks
Like
they're smart.
by condescension in the latter scenario.
Yeah, I guess it would be like, here, not paying people off is like you've created a great work of art, but by being non-traditional, it calls attention to something.
Right. I mean, admittedly, like it's not like I've read every classic, but of those that I've read, I've never encountered a book that like was intentionally finished. Like I'm not so in other words, I'm not counting Kafka's novels that were not finished, but of the finished ones, I don't know if I've ever encountered one that was this not just ambiguous, but like pointedly saying that the resolution of the things that people have invested 1,200 pages of reading into don't actually matter per se.
I mean, in a way, it might be like a somewhat inevitable result of having such a giant scope that you're not going to have a trite ending.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's going to be messy. I'm just thinking of like The Wire. There are often a lot of things unresolved at the end of the season.
Right, right. I get what you're saying. Let me ask you this. So we brought up the entertainment, the thing that like once you've watched it, um, all you want to do is watch this to, like to the point of like you are now dead before you're dead. So at the end of the book, it's revealed what is actually the narrative of this entertainment, and it's something that is it's not specific to any one individual. It's not like Mark Dittmer. He watches it, and it's Mark Dittmer's family, and Trepanowski watches it. It's a different thing. It's the same story. It's the exact same actors, the exact same lines being delivered. That whatever. So let me ask you this: what do you, upon hearing that description, what do you think David Foster Wallace chose to be that entertainment?
I don't know whether
To have those addictive qualities?
a couple things flash in my mind. One is sex and one is gambling. Pornography is, I think, a highly addictive thing, but also gambling. Slot machines are highly addictive things. So I think it would have heard about it if it were pornographic. So I'm going to guess it's a kind of game, like a gambling sort of thing. Like maybe like the game Pong, but
Well, before giving
some stakes, some
well before
gambling
giving
stakes.
you the answer, like for your for your next guess, use the premise of like is there presently something similar to what my would be guess is? Like pornographic. There's plenty of porn. What?
This was published in 2000.
Yeah, 96.
It
It's
might have
plenty
been
of porn. The
might
idea
have been
of
prophetic.
televising people who are gambling is not.
Might have been prophetic.
No, it's a timeless thing. Or the yeah, in terms of general writing this book, prophetic, but to give you a hint about what the entertainment depicts, it's about as timeless as Cain and Abel. It's not literally that story, but it has that timeless quality.
So it seems as though trying to guess this. Maybe like something like the game show Survivor.
Ah, okay. That would actually, that would fit the 1990s thing. No, it's
Or like Hunger Games.
so the director of the film within the book is well known for having a really advanced understanding of I forget what it's called, but like optics, like the light and the lens and filming and whatnot. So he creates a special lens to simulate the degree of blurriness that a newborn baby would have. So you're not when you're watching the film, it's not like 20/20 vision. You've got the blurry newborn eyes. He's got the camera angled up, so he's got a woman speaking down to the camera in both senses of the phrase, and she's apologizing for all of the challenges of existence and what she has brought this newborn into.
So it's on a loop.
Technically, they can rewind it, but they're playing it on a loop. So yeah, it's just so from the viewing experience, it's just endless apologies from mom.
So that is revealed as a toward the end kind of moment. That's one thing is sort of an ending. It it is resolved.
Yeah. So, do you have any thoughts on the Oedipal issues?
It seems apt. Like I'm imagining like a hot shower or just lying in bed, just some passive thing. A call to be taken care of, and when one does those things, it's just passive and vulnerable. Like a baby is vulnerable. There's a desire to go back to that stage, take down a shield.
What about the apologizing from mom?
Well, it seems like it would engage a certain self-pity, which is very insidious, right? Like that's a thing that if it gets in your life, it could sometimes destroy a life. That self-pity.
Does this personally resonate?
Sure. Yeah.
It does for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I would want to
I
hear
think like
apologies from mom rather than dad. Why would you want to hear apologies from mom rather than dad?
the desire for nurturance. It seems more plausible, like that. You know, there's something about succumbing to addiction, like being in that active addiction, that is it's an inherently feminized thing. It's not an inherently masculine thing. Um, it's having so much of our pleasure needs met that it goes way too far in the opposite direction, which is not is dad is like, to the extent that a dad is somewhat unhealthy, it would be like too withholding, which wouldn't describe something that is like you're just taking it in all the time with no refractory period, like the tape.
Something you're addicted to, that period in your life when you don't have to. It's like being a child. A child gets to be nurtured, and the mother is a big part of that childhood.
The mom is the one to. Have you read Iron John?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do you think? Where I'm going with that?
So in Iron John, there's a monster in a lake, and it's eating people, and the hero has to. The hero just drains the lake in order to capture the. He captures the monster, puts him in a cage in the castle, and then this kid, the hero's kid.
All right. Mom versus. Let me zoom you in. You asked me, why do I think it was the mom in the entertainment and not the dad?
Okay,
And I've referenced Iron John, so
the kid has to. The
Okay.
kid, we're getting there. The kid loses his ball in a cage with Iron John, and so to get the ball from Iron John, the kid has to let Iron John free. And to do that, he has to get the key from under his mother's pillow. So the key to finding one's own inner self, one's own wild man, is to one has to betray his mother in a way by cutting the cord to the mom.
Yeah, yeah, you're onto it. So yeah, like the dad energy would the default is pushing the kid out of the nest, whether regardless of whether he or not is ready. The mom's default energy is to keep the kid in the nest, to smother, and crucially in the story of Iron John, it's up to the boy to be the one who initiates the separation. So then the addiction, which would be the opposite of that continuum, would be the fantasy of that merging, never ending.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough. So addiction, he has a lot to say about addiction, but it's interesting. There's the addictive video, but then parallel tracks that relate to addiction. Gately is in recovery. Like, was he a drug user? So somehow he got into a rehab. He was a recreational user.
He was an addict. Yeah.
So on one track, you're dealing with drugs where you recover, like Gately is recovering, and on the other hand, you have an imaginary drug that no one can recover from. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think to, and by the way, I got to give credit to this YouTube channel, like Animus something. So a lot of my thoughts are not original,
Okay.
and let me make a total parenthetical point.
Yeah, very appropriate.
Okay. So I was looking up like various Infinite Jest videos because I just love the analysis stuff, and there's this therapist online, and just only two out of his 100 or so videos touch on this book. So it's a very, to use that word again, parenthetical part of what his channel is about. But he made one video in particular that I thought like, holy fuck, this is spot on. This is like one of the best videos. And I have a big heuristic for me of like when I find somebody or some source that's really good to address some particular interest of mine, I will often then look at what else that person has content that they've created, even if that content doesn't pertain to one of my own interests. I'm more now attracted to the quality of this content creator. So that got me to like trying to type in like I remembered it was Animus, yeah, something, and it because his and because his channel is so small, it's like one of those things where like even though I typed in exactly the name of or Animus, it wasn't taking me to the channel, so I wrote Animus channel, which did get me there. But to the actual point of this digression is it got me to this other channel too, and it's the channel is nothing but depiction, like on the thumbnail, depictions of the Joker. Um, Kind of atypical depictions of the Joker in that the Joker is famously the court jester. It's not the most powerful man in the room, whereas these thumbnails always portray the Joker as the most powerful man in the room, if not like the whole world, the way it's imaged. The titles of the videos are so resentment laden. They seem like they really like skirt on the line of like what would be allowable on like YouTube's like terms and conditions. And so I was like, at that point I sort of connected the dots, and I was like, I think I know what this is. But I did watch a few minutes of a video to confirm, and it was that. And it's all AI generated. The thumbnails and the actual like words that are being spoken, and the voice and whatever. But it's all it is resentment laden. It's like it's stuff in the second person, and it's talking about like all of your resentments are justified, and even your neuroses are either justified or not what other people think. I was like, wow, what a fucking irony. Like this, because in the book Infinite Jest, some people are trying to seize the entertainment and release it for terroristic purposes. Or you could imagine what
To weaponize it.
Just make sure I with you.
So, as part of the channel, there was an awareness of it.
Somewhere on the channel there is a awareness of it, like
Something about
what did you
your
say about
neuroses.
or resentment laden?
What did you say about that?
it's speaking in second person to the viewer, and it's saying all of your resentments are justified, and sometimes it brings up the viewer's neuroses, and it's either saying it says something to the effect of like they're either justified or people are accusing you of being neurotic, but it's really like you're onto their bullshit, that sort of thing. It's basically a variant of the tape from Infinite Jest. It has the same like terroristic purposes. It's the same like trying to give the viewer exactly what they want in a way that's totally divorced from reality. Like it's evil.
But the biggest, it's easier. It would have a very different feeling tone to it. Like with a mother, you could see something comforting, like a good, being twisted to evil, whereas because a mother's love is good, whereas resentment isn't good.
Yeah.
Though I guess in some contexts it could be good. Like anger can be fuel to get people out of depression.
Yeah. Maybe it would be like the Joker videos would be like the analog of it, if they were the father telling you exactly what you wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, do you think anybody on the internet is trying to create something identical, like someone working on Infinite Jest trying to create that with AI? You know?
Well, that's my point. I think this like this may as well be it. That's creepy.
I noticed early in the book, it only came up. It came up in a national security context. Like the first person to see the video was some national security bigwig.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like that. I wonder how many of these narratives actually cross paths. Can I start asking about various strands of narrative that I remember from the book? Or do you want to discuss something else first?
Well, put it this way, like the story is highly allegorical, right? So like I'm concerned of like as an analogy, like asking about like various plot points in Animal Farm of like let's talk about this aspect of the farm, and it's like it's a fucking allegory. Like it doesn't matter. So if you have certain things, but my pushback is like, first of all, like in terms of value add, that's going to be like what the other videos on YouTube about this book are already covering. So I feel like we wouldn't be adding much. Can I reveal your identity of 12 step?
Yeah.
So okay, so we've got we're two addicts in recovery talking about the book. Like that's tremendous like value add. Like that type of discussion right there, I think is going to be something that you're not going to get on those other videos. But those other videos are going to talk about the the granular like what's going on with U.S. versus Canada in this book.
Just in this book, yeah,
There is a lot of fun things.
there's a lot of fun things.
I only got through one or two chapters of the AA sort of recreation of the rehab Don Gately goes to. I I think I heard in one of those online videos of David Foster Wallace
Sure. Yeah.
that he did have some experience based on the based on the book section of that. His experience. What do you find valuable? How did this book affect your own perception of recovery?
Sure. Well, all right. So for anybody who isn't familiar with the 12-step program, it's incredibly programmatic. I mean, the literal name 12 steps is very suggestive of programmatic, and it indeed is. So, um, what that translates into is there's a ton of discussion of what to do. There's a lot less discussion of how to do it, and there's no discussion of why do it. And so that there's like strengths and weaknesses to that. I think overall it's a strength. It's not an accident that AA has expanded worldwide. It's not an accident that many people have 20, 30, 40 plus years of continuous sobriety as a result of working this program. I heard it said once to me, and I agree with it. I've never met a man too dumb for AA. Or yeah, too dumb for AA.
But there are men who are too
Yeah.
smart for it.
Yeah. So that stuff is really good. The challenges with it, first of all, like it's not like when it came to writing the big book, it's not like they said, we're going to take 50 years of like writing multiple drafts, editing it over a long period of time to make sure like we really get this right. Like what we've got right now is essentially a first draft. There have been some change. We're technically on the fourth edition. There's been some changes from edition to edition, but those have been like mostly cosmetic.
Yeah, there's a bias against changing it.
Right. So you contrast that with like something like the Bible, where many of the books have had centuries of rewriting. If it actually did occur, at least there was the ability to do that. The big book is our Bible, so to speak, and but we've got a draft one. Some of it is great. Some of it is pretty lacking. Most of it's somewhere in the middle between the two.
So the big book was published in 1939. We had drafts being made in the mid 1930s. The society was founded in 1934, but we refer to it. It was nameless, and then it was named after the book. The Bible is sometimes referred to by AA members who are religious as the big book, but AA is not a religious society, it's a secular society.
I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree. The word religious means to rebind. I think of, if you ask me what is religion, I think of it as just a set of ritual-like practices designed to achieve some sort of like supranormal effect. Okay, we repeatedly practiced the 12 steps to achieve what, human man could not do on his own, stay sober. To get an alcoholic to put down the drink and to stay stopped for the rest of his life. That sounds like pretty fucking as close to supernatural as it gets. And like I said, 12 steps. The format of the meeting is like, I like to joke, it's like, what I want to see a secretary of a meeting one day be like, you know what, we're not going to do the Lord's Prayer today. All right, start with reading page 82. Like, people would fucking flip out, right? They're expecting the same practices over and over and over.
I mean, I think sometimes we almost have the steps memorized. It's there's something musical about reading it aloud. You read it, the fluency and predictability comes from it being a musical thing. There's no harmony, but there is a rhythm. I mean, I guess I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the AA mantra, or not mantra, but philosophy ascribed to Bill, the founder of AA, coming to believe in a higher power that restored him to sanity. Uh, he didn't. He didn't like. He struggled with the idea until he was told that his higher power could be whatever he wanted it to be, his conception of God, and that made his message that he received and passed on spiritual. I think that's paraphrasing the big book.
AA is a religion where you have to submit to something in order to get what that religion gives you, in this case, continuous sobriety. So you have to submit to something to stay sober. And what makes AA unlike any other religion is you get to pick, to a large extent, what you submit to. Even then, there's some specifications. We have a tradition, I think it's tradition 1, that says our higher, I'm paraphrasing, but our higher authority is a loving God. So you don't even get to say, my higher power is not loving. You don't get to do, that's a violation of tradition 1. But within that, as long as you're willing to concede, all right, we all agree all of our conceptions of the higher power have to be loving, that's non-negotiable. From that starting point, you can then define your higher power however you want, but you have to submit to that higher power. That's a religion in my eyes.
Is it that I mean, you have to admit that there's some departure being made by AA. When Ebby tells Bill, let your higher power be whatever you want, instead of saying, no, you have to thank Jesus Christ. I mean, if the conversation had gone that way, it would still be Christian, it would still be in the church, it would still be Oxford groups. So did Ebby just change Bill into a different religion that he just created? He found an opportunity to create a religion wholly outside of Christianity or overlapping with Christianity? What's your take on that?
So connecting this to Infinite Jest, you can technically be cured of alcoholism let me rephrase. You can technically achieve lifelong sobriety even though your starting point is as an alcoholic. You can do that through any form of submitting to something that's pretty healthy. Now, you probably should start off with a 12-step program like AA because it's like we said, it's programmatic. It's already it's like a starting kit of it's like um, if somebody wanted to do something on a computer for the very first time in his life, he should probably buy the computers that you get at stores that are customized for built for or not customized, they're built for the end user. He should probably do that rather than buying all the parts and trying to create his computer. Or that would be like very impractical. That's where AA's big value is. It's the pre-assembled computer already designed with the user in mind. But the point is whether it's Mac, whether it's PC, whether it's build your own computer, none of those is inherently right or wrong as long as you're able to, at the end of the day, have a computer and, in this case, have a religious practice defined by submission to a higher purpose. To connect it, because you were asking about like the U.S. political stuff in Infinite Jest. What David Foster Wallace is largely using that to speak to.
I just like oh whatever.
Speak to.
I just like oh whatever. Fucking yeah. Sorry.
So
political thing.
What he's so David Foster Wallace is saying like the U.S. is going to hell in a handbasket, and we're probably at the point of no return. But the key point of why is because none of us submit to a higher anything.
Mm.
He even brings up like it's very parenthetical, but he's saying like it could be nationalism
That we submit to.
if it like a cure, a potential cure for the U.S. could hypothetically be if we were much more nationalistic, provided that our conception of what kind of like what tradition one, a loving God, so long as that nationalistic conception of the U.S. of A. were positive enough, that would be fine. But the point is, whether it's not submitting to nationalism, whether it's not submitting to AA, whether it's not submitting to Christianity or the whatever religion, the point is that we're, as a Western society, we're like the characters in Seinfeld. They're very defined by their refusal to submit to anything, including like for a lot of laughs, their violations of cultural norms. And it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence that Infinite Jest was published in '96, right during Seinfeld, right? That's the world that he was living in.
What? How does that viewpoint? Because I could imagine him or could picture him in YouTube videos created, around his lifetime, talking about irony or this or that. But this you're talking not based on his YouTube videos, but based on stuff that happened in Infinite Jest. Can I presume, or you? So how does his dim viewpoint of where U.S. is, how the U.S. was doing, show itself in the book?
Right. So, so the book's kind of like divided into three basic storylines. Right. One is this elite tennis academy.
Yeah, I was wondering when that was going to come up. That hasn't. Yeah, you haven't mentioned. And the main connection of that one is that's the son of the director of this thing, right? Okay.
The auteur.
Yeah, the son of the auteur of the crazy movie, the addictive movie, is in this elite tennis academy.
Yep. So we can get to that, but just setting it aside for right now. That's
Fair enough. That's one of the three.
One of the three. We mentioned Don Gately and his recovery house is
Mm-hmm.
one of the other thirds, and the last one is technically the U.S. has merged with Canada and Mexico and created ONAN is the acronym. I'm forgetting right now what it stands for.
ONAN is the name of the Organization of North American Nations or something.
Yeah,
or something like
right.
that.
Yeah. But it effectively is like it's got the 1990s and I would say still today the 2020s American ethos.
Okay.
So even though it's technically all of North America, it's effectively the US of A's energy and ethos
That's interesting.
being critiqued.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a member from that government, and he's often in dialogue with a Quebecois separatist. It doesn't matter why they're trying to separate, but just that's the kind of political and philosophical antagonist. So they're having a tete-a-tete throughout this book.
The Quebecois separatist is the antagonist. Antagonist against the ethos of North American. Okay.
American as in U.S. of A.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So to your point, they early on there's a criticism of America of like basically it's a rhetorical question of like, doesn't it speak a lot to how effete the USA is that a video like this could even be so irresistible? So I think that kind of speaks to your thing. There's some like David Foster Wallace was like really prescient on some of the technological criticisms. Like he anticipates Netflix. I looked it up. Netflix was not formed as a company until the year after 1997.
Okay.
And the way that not just the entertainment with a capital E, but various tapes in the story are disseminated. It's a lot like how Netflix started out with like mail-in DVDs, essentially.
I mean, okay? That sounds familiar. I'm also remembering, but I'm not sure if this is from Infinite Jest or maybe some other book. Maybe I'm misremembering. But there's like something about like, they have video phones, but nobody wants to look. Everybody hates the way they look, so they make all some sort of filters, and then they just get rid of the video part entirely or something.
Yep.
That is.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
is
I don't have anything to add because you kind of described
That's it. Okay.
Right.
Huh. Yeah. Well, yeah. ONAN seemed very well. Some of this stuff just seems so imaginative, but it makes it frustrating. So, for example, like what year does Infinite Jest take place in?
Yeah.
And your answer is like the year of the trial-sized Dove Bar, or whatever, right? Because years are being sponsored by, which I suppose that would the idea that year names are being sponsored by companies. There's maybe an implicit criticism of like capitalism out of control, just in that whole plot development.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm admittedly disinterested because like it's just a broader point. Like we talk about on our men's team like the suckhole chart and like having like these wider areas of context, right? So like a very low level of context and purpose is just thinking about just myself only, thinking about my needs being met and my wants, especially my wants being satisfied as an individual. Then we get up to like maybe a one-on-one relationship, a team of above that of maybe a family unit or a working team,
small team,
men's team, something like that, and different levels of organization. And then you get to like eventually caring about humanity.
Society is a higher level, yeah.
Right. But my thing is and I think it is said in the men's weekend, but not emphasized enough. I think when we talk about it when we talk about it later, is I think you really have to like have near mastery of the penultimate level before you can really operate at the higher level. And specifically in the context of a lot of this, like if I looked at like 1,000 Americans who had a lot of interest in politics, right? They could tell you like what was the big thing that Trump was up to this week, and what bills were on the table of the last month or whatever. If that was the denominator, is 1,000, and then I asked the question, like, what's the numerator of people who are adding any sort of value to anyone in their lives? It could be themselves, it could be their wife, etc., community. What the numerator is that they're adding value as a direct consequence of following politics to this level. It's like, I think you'd be lucky to get 10 out of 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. And so that informs my viewpoint of like all these societal critiques of Infinite Jest. Is like, I don't really care that much. It's above my pay grade. I haven't achieved enough mastery of my life to be critiquing America at large, especially insofar as I don't have much like of a political way of changing that.
But yeah,
and Infinite Jest talks so much about improving as an individual, so that's why I'm
does it?
like,
Okay.
refocusing it. Yeah. Like with to bring us back, like with the entertainment and contrasting Infinite Jest versus the Big Book of AA, right? AA is a set of, it's a program. Do this, do that, blah blah blah. Even we have page references that are so hardwired. We reference them by number, 86 through 88. Upon awakening. Don't do this at any other time.
When we retire at night.
When we retire, this is what you do. This is what you do. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm sure you've had at least one sponsor or been aware of other sponsors that, like, I mean, they're fucking literalist, right? When it comes to like step number 4, and it's like 4 columns that you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna stop here and you're gonna pray. You're gonna stop here and you're gonna pray. And this prayer is gonna be about this thing and not those things, right? It's very programmatic. I like with it to complement that with Infinite Jest, where I'm able to gauge abstractly, like, oh shit, like it's not just I need to avoid the ultimate entertainment. It's not just that, but it goes further of, to the extent that I'm either moving towards that behaviorally or even desiring that, I'm in a bad way. Right? Like I used to, when I first got sober, and I mean really for years after, I've got 6 years of sobriety now, I had this context of like, I want it to be Miller time. Like back when I was drinking and using, I would still work. I was always someone who like worked really hard, and my bosses generally like were very highly respecting and appreciative of my work. And then I would come home and like it was just a fucking mess because it was Miller time. And I expected like, okay, I did my 9 to 5, and then I shouldn't have to take care of any fucking responsibilities whatsoever. And then what I've really learned in recovery is like, then I got sober, and I still kept that expectation. Now I wasn't like drinking or smoking or whatever, but I still had that thing of like, I'm not going to do much work outside of my 9 to 5. If anything kind of comes up that gets in my way, like I'm entitled entitlement. I'm entitled to have a fuck you attitude because you're fucking with my Miller time. And I already was maturing, before picking up Infinite Jest, but then seeing that of like, now anytime that I am especially chafed by adversity appearing up per se, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm seeking a life that's more like the ultimate addiction, that entertainment. And like being able to see that in a way that is, you cannot get just from a program itself. You can't get that realization just from upon awakening, when we retire at night, this prayer exactly that way. But actually being able to see like the ultimate abstraction, kind of like the story of Cain and Abel. That resonates with so many of us. Hardly any of us have ever committed murder. Hardly any of us have like ever been.
Wait, before let me just try to like re.
You do that. I'm gonna pull up something in the book. You do that.
Okay. So just what do we just sort of go over? Okay, so that in AA, the program help. One of the things about the program is we identify that like resentment is the
number one offender.
But it's basically like and blaming other people. Like
fear should be categorized like stealing. It seems to cause more. It's just like the fucking. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, resentments and fears are like the big. The things are the things that we typically inventory: resentments, fears, and harms done. And but I suppose that in the culture, but although you point out it's not interesting to talk about the culture as at large. It's more like, but still, maybe it's very common. A common mistake that addicts make, that people make, is to go into that type of thinking: resentment, blaming other people, and and in doing so we avoid personal responsibility, and it turns out personal responsibility is the way forward. Not so resentment and blaming other people is the wrong way, all too common. And okay, so then we go from there to how do we get to jump to Cain and Abel? I forget.
That everyone is in agreement. I think that it's like a very uncontroversial that story has tremendous value. Even if you're not religious, like there's something where that story really fucking resonates. And yet, in taking that like in the most literalist way, like it's only a minority of us who have ever killed anybody, and even murder is a higher level than just manslaughter. Very few of us have even like been like one little decision node away from killing somebody, and yet that's a demonstration of how powerful a story is, because you can understand it abstractly. I can identify with Cain's his gripe with God, even though I've never killed a man. I can identify with wanting a film that consists nothing but my mother apologizing for bringing me into existence and the conditions of existence, even though I've never seen this fictional film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, how much of an impact does it make to have that reveal at the end? Like, how much did you enjoy the book before the big reveal? You know what I mean? Like, and then after, or did it really change your substantial experience? As would you say, or you enjoy the vibe of the book and sort of see this is it's all so many pages. It's all so I guess it's not like one page is gonna make the whole thing. You know? It's weird though.
Right. Well, I mean, like I was saying before, like David Foster Wallace makes some passages deliberately difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Kafka-esque pages on end without a paragraph break. You've got sentences within them that are hundreds of words long. You've got some parts that just seem like they're deliberately dense. You've got parts where The narrator of the story is speaking in a really thick level of ebonics, where it's
Right.
it's genuinely difficult to figure out where a sentence begins or ends. So it definitely, in that first reading, just literally sorting out what is going on is kind of like Moby Dick in terms of the difficulty in doing that. But then it's just sprinkled with like these individual pieces of insight. So there were some, even though that thing about the films, what its actual contents were, was towards the end. There were other parts more towards the beginning, and I'm going to get to one right here. It's really interesting. So to set this up for context, right? I'm a big question beggar. I think you've known that about me. So Infinite Jest is largely a book about like how to orient your life. And so that begs the question, like, why don't we just do like what the Stoics did? Or I'm sure you've seen on YouTube like those videos that talk about like live your life like Stoic XYZ and Cicero and whoever, like they get huge view counts, right? And it begs the question, like, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? Why don't we just do this? Or like I love Mitch and Scott, right? The creators of the Men's Weekend, or Man to Men Men's Weekend. They generally have a take of, we were doing it right at time XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
We departed from that. If we just returned to time XYZ's way of doing it, it all would be hunky-dory. Or if we just returned to what the Stoics were doing, it would all work. I think David Foster Wallace is arguing against that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a part that no other video ever brings up on YouTube. So I think it's his big value add.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay. Big value add. All right.
Big value add energy. So, for context, this is a kind of like a book report, but about TV shows, written by Hal and Condensa.
Hal and Condensa. Remind me.
The tennis prodigy,
That's the one. That's
son
the,
of the
main
director.
It's the main character of the part that I read. Main character for the first. The Elite Tennis Academy was the dominant thread during the part I read. But
for anyone who hasn't read this book, a lot the literal realism of the story is it departs from realism the same way The Simpsons do. I referenced Seinfeld earlier. I like to think the heyday of The Simpsons was also at that same time period, 1990s. So I like to think a lot about these characters like as though it were a less PG friendly variant of The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it's actually like really useful because with cartoons, like whether it's The Simpsons or South Park, the fact that those stories are depicted as cartoons allows the story creators to use reductio ad absurdums as a method of illustration.
Okay.
So if you see any like part that I'm reading that just seems sort of silly, like that, it's got that Simpsons style silliness.
So is he reading this to a class or to a friend?
He just wrote a report, and
the text is included as part of the book. So
yeah,
you're not reading it to anybody. It's just in the book. Okay.
Yep. Chief Steve McGarrett of Hawaii Five-0 and Captain Frank Furillo of Hill Street Blues are useful for seeing how our North American idea of the hero changed from the 1970s era of Hawaii Five-0 to the 1980s era of Hill Street Blues, right? So you already have like the Simpsons level humor of like the end of the sentence just repeats the subject from the beginning of the sentence. I love those little like little nuggets of his writing. Chief Steve McGarrett is a classically modern hero of action. He acts out. It is what he does. The camera is always on him. He is hardly ever off screen. He has just one case per week. The audience knows what the case is and also knows by the end of Act 1 who is guilty. Because the audience knows the truth before Steve McGarrett does, there is no mystery. There is only Steve McGarrett. The drama of Hawaii Five-0 is watching the hero in action, watching McGarrett stalk and strut, homing in on the truth. Homing in is the essence of what the classic hero of modern action does. Steve McGarrett is not weighed down by administrative state police chores or by females or friends or emotions or any sorts of conflicting demands on his attention. His field of action is bare of diverting clutter. When's the last
Bare of diverting clutter. Okay,
When's
got
the
it.
last week? It's a rhetorical question. When's the last week that you've been like, wow, from all my work, it was just totally bare of diverting clutter.
I look at the amount of clutter on the shelf behind you. You know what I mean? It's like I couldn't even.
Right.
I guess that's the most clutter-free shelf in the room. But look at you don't even want to see the other rooms, so the sides of this room. All right.
Thus, Chief Steve McGarrett single-mindedly acts to refashion a truth the audience already knows into an object of law, justice, modern heroism. In contrast, Captain Frank Furillo is what used to be designated a postmodern hero, namely, a hero whose virtues are suited to a more complex and corporate American era, i.e. a hero of reaction. Captain Frank Furillo does not investigate cases or single-mindedly home in. He commands a precinct. He is a bureaucrat, and his heroism is bureaucratic, with a genius for navigating cluttered fields. In each broadcast episode of Hill Street Blues, Captain Frank Furillo is beset by petty distractions. Division coordinator, Quanten's division. Beset by petty distractions on all sides from the very beginning of Act 1. Not one, but 11 complex cases, each with suspects and snitches and investigating officers and angry community leaders and victims' families all clamoring for redress. We need this division standard because this other team is fucking up with this thing that is going on hundreds of miles away from our local area. Hundreds of tasks to delegate. Egos to massage. Promises to make. Promises from last week to keep. By-wens. 2 or 3 cops' domestic troubles. Payroll vouchers, duty logs, corruptions to be tempted by and agonized over. A police chief who's a political parody, a hyperactive son, an ex-wife who haunts the frosted glass cubicle that serves as Frank Furillo's office, parentheses, whereas Steve McGarrett's 1970s office more closely resembled the libraries of landed gentry, hushed behind 2 heavy doors and wainscoted in thick tropical oak, close parentheses. So back to Frank Furillo. Plus a coldly attractive public defenderess who wants to talk about, did this suspect get Mirandized in Spanish? And can Frank stop coming too soon? He came too soon again last night. Maybe he should get into some kind of stress counseling. Plus all the weekly moral dilemmas and double binds, his even-handed bureaucratic heroism gets Captain Frank Furillo into. Captain Frank Furillo of Hill Street Blues is a postmodern hero, a virtuoso of triage and compromise and administration. Frank Furillo retains his sanity, composure, and superior grooming in the face of a barrage of distracting, unheroic demands that would have left Chief Steve McGarrett slumped, unkempt, and chewing his knuckle in administrative confusion. In further contrast to Chief Steve McGarrett, Captain Frank Furillo is rarely filmed tight or full front. He is usually one part of a frenetic, moving pan by the program's camera. In contrast, Hawaii Five-O's camera crew never even used a dolly, favoring a steady tripodic close-up on McGarrett's face that today seems more reminiscent of romantic portraiture than film drama. What kind of hero comes after McGarrett's Irishized modern cowboy, the lone man of action riding lonely herd in paradise? Furillo's is a whole different kind of loneliness. The postmodern hero was a heroic part of the herd, responsible for all of what he is part of, responsible to everyone. His lonely face as placid under pressure as a cow's face. The jut-jawed hero of action, i.e. Hawaii Five-O, becomes the mild-eyed hero of reaction, i.e. Hill Street Blues, a decade later. All right, so to take us back to the prompt of why I read this, what I interpret this to be, and I agree with this, is we can't just revert back to stoicism. I love Mitch and Scott. I don't even think we can fully just revert back to whatever 1950s living or whatever they're referring to. That there's something inherently postmodern and bureaucratic was a word of emphasis in that passage, a diverting of our attention necessarily into all these different pieces, and that whatever ethos that we're going to come up with that's going to yield the best results, it has to, it's like not just square peg has to go, we need a square peg for this square hole. It's like the holes have been fractured from a big hole into like 87 small holes, and we need a peg that somehow has 87 tongs to fit in there. Your thoughts, sir?
I gotta see Hawaii Five-O and Hill Street Blues. But the Hill Street Blues series sounds very it sounds a little bit like The Wire. It's kind of sounds very realistic. The public defenderess sounds hot.
What do you think, sir?
What do I think? Let me put the camera on myself. Well, I think that there's definitely value to, noticing that, like, the Renaissance is supposed to have been a time when, like, they rediscovered the virtues of the Greeks, like, and they brought them, like, so it was like a reappreciation of some past thing. So I think there is value to reappreciation of the 1950s, or like traditional gender roles, specifically like having men's weekends that where men are reminded of the value of certain traditional gender roles is good. But I think you're likely right that it could be good to remember certain things, but the overall ethos that we need to go back to this period that's never. The Renaissance wasn't like we went back to being the Greeks, and 2020 cannot be resolved by all 1950s things. So yeah, the postmodern moment. Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know what kind of way of being is called for. I do think that there is, like, we should strip it down to very almost metaphysical commandments. Like Stoicism has some good value to it in that sense. But, like, I say strip it down, like, it can't, you don't want to just say, oh, it's team, do what the Democrats say, or do what follow the teachings of YouTuber X. It's more like but I guess my only pushback would be I don't know if even Mitch and Scott purport to or various men's weekend purport to tell us to go back to the 1950s. I agree with your criticism to an extent, but I would say, like, the general. Yeah, I would recommend a rediscovering of certain virtues. Yeah, you can't rely on them entirely.
What are you talking about? Like Mitch talks about how his generation betrayed the one that came after it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, it's like
like I really detect a narrative of like there was generation. I don't know which terms, but Generation A was doing it right. Generation B betrayed. Now Generation C
is
either fucking up or now has their Generation D who's lost.
Well, like it's like World War II. The men went and fought to save America, but then afterwards,
tough times create tough men.
Yes, that's very
tough men create
easy times.
Easy times.
Soft times.
Soft times. Soft times create soft men. Soft men create tough times. And there's something. It's describing a cycle, and I think there's. Don't get me wrong. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like, yeah, there's definitely something to be, and what David Foster Wallace is advocating for. A lot of it is compatible with Stoicism. It's compatible with the men's weekend and values expressed in, for instance, the 1950s. But it's not a perfect cycle. And that there's something about the necessary fracturing of our attention, that bureaucracy that Frank Furillo has to deal with, that just you're not going to find that in Cicero, and you're not going to find that in texts written in the 40s, because it wasn't even like no one could even dream that as a reality.
Yeah, like, and why is it necessary? I don't know, but it is. It's like I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make my email go away or whatever. I'm going to interact in the world where I have to act through 5 different media or 50 different media of communications, and so in that fracture, there's somehow a need to stay together in character, even as your your actions must go out, be diffused in these crazy different rooms and directions.
Right. And like when we talk about like acting out of your emotion, I think that's like largely what that's referring to. Like don't act out of you can have emotion, don't act out on it in times of stress, specifically because it is like a representation of you yourself are fracturing now to match the stressful, fractured environment.
Oh. Because that sounds good. I also was thinking, like, it's one, the idea of doing inventorying one's how one is doing, like the fractured landscape, I think, is part of what makes inventories extremely frustrating to do, especially like a daily inventory. I'm like, it's hard to access the 100 different universes I've been in a day.
Right.
So it's like, how did I do today? I don't fucking know. I'm going to sleep.
Totally.
So yeah, it's interesting trying to find a way, but it might be that.
And you know what's funny is
go ahead.
It's like both in the book Infinite Jest and in at least the interviews that David Foster Wallace gave, like in the immediate release of the book, he seems to largely he seems to not have like a perfect answer to that. Now, I did mention some of it. The crux of the answer is you gotta surrender to something, as evidenced by or as depicted by Don Gately and being in that Ennet house, that enclosure, right? But what's really interesting is at that, maybe this is a good transition point to the Enfield Tennis Academy, where Hal Incandenza spends his time. So there is their head tennis coach, I believe his name is Gerhard Shit, but I don't. It's funny. It's like the first time saying it out loud.
Some genius German trainer or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, and he there's this really cool scene because like so the story is taking place in Boston essentially,
Mm-hmm.
which is, we all know, very cold during the month of November. And they have this at this tennis academy. They have this like inflatable enclosure. It's kind of like a stadium that gets the top ceiling of this stadium can be inflated, and it's called with the adorable name the Lung.
Yes.
And there's kind of a question. It's not a set date every year of when they're going to inflate the Lung and create more hospitable playing conditions. It's sort of like on the coaches' feels.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a scene in the book where the players are training. They're waking up super early. There's so many players that they have to be grouped by like level of ranking, and the highest ranking has to wake up the earliest, and some of the players chafe at that. They believe that they should be rewarded for being ranked higher by getting the perk of getting to wake up later. They're chafing at waking up early. They're chafing at having to do these like grueling conditioning drills, particularly when the weather's really inclement. And so Coach Shit addresses them, and he asks like one of the youngest members, like, "What do you think I just said in response to you? Repeat to me what you think you heard." And the young player says, like, "I think what you're telling us is like we need to learn how to adjust to the conditions." And Shit says, "No, that's not what I said." And then he expands. So right now, what I've already told you is, I am not telling you to adjust to the conditions. So what do you think? What do you think this head coach goes on to say is like his central thesis regarding how to deal with these factors?
Know thyself.
Know thyself.
To thine own self be true, So you're gonna find the inner true essence of yourself and bring that to whatever conditions. Be consistent in that.
Be consistent. That's the thing. He's saying it's the
consistent seems like such a tennis thing.
It's the opposite.
Criticize athletes for not being consistent. Go ahead.
It's the opposite of adjusting to the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how you perform should be independent of whether the weather's really nice out or really nasty. How you perform should be independent of whether you have a crowd that is so huge and thunderous that it's intimidating, or on the other end of the spectrum, so anemic that it's uninspiring. How you perform should be independent of whether your opponent is playing the game straight or whether he's cheating. Whether the umpire is playing the game straight or cheating. That passage, like, it was just so inspiring to me. Like, I thought about that. To be honest, like, to the extent that I've had difficulty with being on a men's team and like as a reflection of my inadequate character, so this is on me. To the extent that I've had that, it's been that I've too much like relied on my expectations for myself being contingent on the outside conditions. Are the other men on the team showing up? Did someone drop out? Was someone dishonest about XYZ, etc.? And then when I read that part, and then I was thinking so much about like sports teams, like how I've been a sports fan for my whole life. Like how many stories have there been about like people criticizing the inadequacy of the refs. That should always that should never be vocalized to a journalist ever. Maybe inside the locker room, but even that much, like probably you want to cut that off, like because it's like we're here to perform, even if we know for a fact that the ref's cheating, even under that, he says it in there, even under that scenario. So, what did you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I can relate. I mean, I really like to to think about society from the standpoint of a sports a contest, and I think about. I hadn't thought about how the players respond to referees, and how that. I mean, it clearly feels like an excuse, or is an excuse. It's not within our control. So I mean, that's a great point. What I guess I noticed about it was like how the players respond. Like they're showing varying levels of partisanship. So like
in the book?
No, in a sports in sports period, like athletes like on any football team, you'll have some athletes who are just totally bonkers, like they're playing the game with such ferocity, like they really see the other side as an enemy. And like and the refs are like, you know, the refs calls are totally every ref's call is suspect, because it's just like the refs just barely, they can't even process that the ref is a ref. They're just like, anything limiting them from just, you know, destroying the other team and winning, you know, like so competitive. Whereas then there's some like the more what do you call it, wise players, like you know, or streetwise players. They know how to talk to the refs.
Streetwise, okay.
They know how to talk to the refs. So they go up, you know, they talk, you know, they go up to the ref as if they're not partisan, you know. But then their point is still to like twist the ref to their own way of thinking. But they're able to, they're a little self-conscious of, oh yeah, this is they stop for a moment and go like, I wonder what that ref's thinking right now.
That's never happened on a men's team.
Yeah, but so anyway, that's kind of going off the reservation with, you know, with your analogy or your point. I don't know if I think analogy is even the right description, because
here's an idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if, and I can only confine this to American sports, because I don't like watching football.
Same.
What if American sports can be like conceptualized as like a story of how we're supposed to relate to the world? Like when we tune on Ravens versus Patriots or Bulls versus Lakers, we are in essence looking at a story that's depicting how we're supposed to relate to the hardships of the world, and how we're supposed to pursue success and championship given those conditions.
Okay.
And I think it's no coincidence the paralleling of, we are a much more feminized society today. I definitely agree with that, like central thesis of the men's weekend. And it's no coincidence to me that that's paralleled in terms of a movement, confining it to the NBA, a movement away from 1990s level of emphasis on success and winning at the expense of your opponent losing, to the modern day emphasis of like, we're predominantly performers, like that adjective, performers. And like, I'm only gonna dial the competition up to a point where like I'm not even gonna risk injuring this person, because like we have to keep the performance going. It's kind of like a theater where they're showing 15 events in a season, and it's like we can't injure our main actor at like the 8th performance because we need to have all 15. We need to load manage these
Mhm.
people so that they can continue the performance enough times in a season. And who really wins or loses has much less emphasis.
Yeah, I mean there's yeah, I'm afraid of that. You know, like you hear about feminization of sports, and it's like it seems like you look at sports and you see it happen, see it unfolding. Like we get to see it unfolding daily. And I hadn't thought about, and maybe complaining about the refs is a great, area of criticism or focus for that. So but Hal in Condenza?
Sir.
I thought he was. Is there a chance that he is? To what extent, I should say, is he Wallace's? Is he like Wallace himself? Because Wallace himself is a known tennis prodigy, so that's sort of a assumption I made to an extent, but I wonder if it's anything to it.
I think the male incandenzas are an amalgam of David Foster Wallace.
Okay.
So you've got Hal. They're both really good at tennis angles, like a little superficial to me.
Yeah. Do you play tennis?
I do not. No,
Okay.
I don't. But so his Hal's the hardest to say, so let me save him for last.
Okay.
His brother Oren is a few years older than him. Oren's the one with like the most overt mommy issues, is just trying to fuck as many, like, not just hot women, but he's got a fetish for single moms.
Is he the NFL kicker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, let me tell you about that. No, let me tell you about that. Thank you for reminding me.
I forgot about it until just you said that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I was thinking he has a younger brother too, right?
That's so good.
Right.
So we talk about being, the goal is to be a three-dimensional man, not definitely not one-dimensional. Right?
Yeah.
And David Foster Wallace has his own version of articulating this, and let me ask you this: like, what temptation is someone giving into when they stay one-dimensional?
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like an arrested development, like not growing up and not maturing.
But can you be not maturing is a consequence of giving into various temptations. So
Okay.
what specific temptation is being given into?
Laziness. No. Sloth, because it takes effort to identify one's weaknesses and move past them. A pride, because you're proud of that one dimension, so you just lean into it.
That's
okay.
it.
All right.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an over focus on the existing strength.
Okay.
So I take it you're not aware of the connection of Oren being a punter and the connection to tennis?
No.
Okay. So, as I already said, I've never played tennis at like even the most minor league level.
Yeah. I thought he was a place kicker. I didn't know he was a punter. I forgot that he was. I mixed up the type of kicker he was.
Well, that's actually relevant.
Most kickers probably do. Some kickers do both. Well, no, they're separate usually. All right, go on.
Sure. So, I'm going to talk like a total amateur about tennis, but I do nonetheless think that my points are valid. Like, there are different ways to pursue attacking your opponent in tennis. Right?
At some point in that book, tennis is presented as a hybrid of boxing and chess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Different ways of attacking your opponent. Yes.
Yeah. So you can go right up to the net. and I think the consequences of that are the inherent trade-offs are pretty obvious. Like the closer you are to the net, the more likely that any one of your shots is going to get past your opponent because you're that much closer to his area of needing to be his defended area. But you're much more likely to have his opposing shot blow past you, right? You can try to hit shots that are predominantly on the baseline. You can try cross court. You can try like kind of those like Roger Federer level like off speed sort of trick shots. And the crucial one that connects with Oren and punting is you can do lobs. And so I'll ask you this: like, what's the trade-off of like what's the cost and what is the benefit of a lob as a single shot in tennis?
I mean, I suppose it strikes me as a defensive style of playing. It's so it's kind of like it's trying to get around the issue, skirt the issue.
It's low risk and it's low reward, right? It's a shot that's going over your opponent before it lands, so the likelihood that he can just like he literally can't wallop the ball as it's going past him because it's so far above his head once it goes past him. So low risk of just like him walloping it right back at you. Low reward as in like the inherent arc and the low speed, the low horizontal.
It's not a winner. It's not a winner.
It's not a winner.
Yeah.
It's not a winner. And it's the same incentive structure, I think, of like men who end up in the friend zone with women. No, seriously.
Makes sense.
What the friend zone like? What the incentive? It's not a good incentive, but the incentive is like, well, I'm still in relationship with her.
You keep the rally going.
Just keep the rally going. Keep the rally going. Right, and so, Oren has this lob-centric game. He then goes to college. He actually decides to quit pursuing his development of tennis over a girl, and then accidentally discovers he has a gift for punting. Punting is like the repeated act of lobbing. You're just it's the same trajectory. Ball goes over, really high arc and then lands in the corner. So he becomes the ultimate specialist at the one thing he had already been good at. Totally avoids all his challenges, totally avoids growing up, is the ultimate embodiment of the mommy's issues and the ultimate character embodiment of what would it be like to live your life like the little baby in the entertainment film. What if you lived your whole life that way without actually seeing the addictive film? This was just your life.
The number one sports host, I suppose, of today is a former punter. Now that's a new development. He should cover this book, or he should get on this. Yeah.
By the way, I mean, on that topic, like, would you agree? I feel strongly about this. Like, so sports commentary has like a myriad of unwritten rules. Like, they're not actually codified, but we sort of have a sense of like what's in the Overton window of like what you can speak and whatnot. And what I would argue is 10 plus years ago, there was just like, you weren't allowed to like gossip because it like, especially if you didn't have like a source who like metaphorically signed his name to the subject of gossip. If you didn't have a confirmed source, you couldn't gossip because it was just like inherent. We're commenting almost exclusively about male sports. We shouldn't be doing like an inherently feminized way of covering this sport. Did we fucking move totally past? Like now, I feel like that's first of all, like the appeal of like the ex-athletes having their own podcasts. I'm sure there are other aspects of it too. I think a lot of it is just, hey, come gossip about your former teammates.
What do you
or
think about this
current
guy?
teammates.
What do you think about that guy? Yeah.
Right, and relatedly, the sports commentary, like on the mainstream of like ESPN and whatnot, those hot take shows seems like it every year a higher and higher percentage of it just is now it's turning it. It's like The View.
I mean I wonder, because I've watched a smaller percentage. I think, like, I don't watch ESPN anymore at all. Like I haven't watched First Take yeah, I'll see on Twitter, like, apparently Stephen A. Smith recently.
Stephen A. is Frank Furillo.
He is Frank Furillo.
Yeah,
but he was recently in a thing with some quarterback.
His cold attractus. What's her name? I know Molly Karam got demoted and then quit, but like his cold attractive defendress. Did you do that ad read in Spanish?
Drake May, New England quarterback, was responding to some quote from Cam Newton, and he said, "Oh, he's on some show. I don't know what it is." And then Stephen A. Smith responded that must be a lie because everybody knows he's lying because everybody knows the First Take is on. You know,
that's awesome.
But I do think that they're competing. Like, you know, it would make sense that if your hypothesis were true. I can't really comment on whether it is because I haven't watched the same slice of programs, but because I picture that they're trying, anybody with a substantial bunch of eyes on them is trying to have to increase their efforts to keep those eyes on them because of this diffusion of, you know, eyes. Like, the young people don't seem like they watch anything that adults watch. You know, they watch their own little shows or whatever.
Right. So yeah, returning us to the incandenzas. So we described Oren, and I think I'm not too familiar with David Foster Wallace, but like he was he was so abusive in at least some aspects of his life that like another big booktuber decided to like dedicate some segment to his video about like the difference between appreciating the artifice versus the artist, and basically saying I don't endorse how bad this man lived his life, even though I love his book. I don't know enough about David Foster.
I can't confirm or deny those allegations.
But like it.
But I've heard them too.
The allegations are commensurate with a mama's.
I just heard him recently. I hadn't even heard. I didn't know if I'd heard him before. But yeah, that's
okay.
I just recently heard that.
Well, the allegations are in line with the total like mama's boy of Oren in Contenza.
Alleged. Okay.
Then you've got the father James in Condenza, and so David Foster Wallace famously wrote a book about how to live your life, and then proceeded to commit suicide, I think 12 years later, right? And well, let me pause there. Like, do you think where do you weigh in on this? Do you think that in any way discredits any of his arguments? Like, I know it's literally an ad hominem, but what are your thoughts?
I don't know if discredits is the right word.
Undermines,
sure. Yeah, I think it. It's like you are an example wherever you go, whatever you do. So, I think about it all the time when I'm thinking about him. It's like it's always in the back of my mind. Like,
really,
I like this guy a lot. I like his writing. I like his speaking. I like what he talks about. But I don't know, but what the fuck happened, man? I don't know what happened. I don't know, so I can't know that he did a bad thing. But it seems like, you know, it's it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's part of the body of it's part of his body. It's part of his body of work. You know.
Well, have you read anything that was like? Because I this Infinite Justice is the only thing I've read from David Foster Wallace. Have you read anything that's like inherently ethical, as in ethically prescriptive?
Well, hilariously, I've read something that's grammatically prescriptive because he writes. But yeah, I've been influenced by his work. Yes, even though it wasn't. I don't know that the work was ethically prescriptive, but the so the article he writes here, he has a 50. He has these 50-page nonfiction pieces, and one is about the people who write the prefaces of dictionaries. So like linguists who argue about, he talks about there's prescriptivists and subscriptivists. I won't get into that. But the part that influenced me was that he talks about various dialects, and one of the dialects he describes as the politically correct dialect. He says this is an increasing thing, and he argues that it's inherently dishonest, like how overly, like he uses examples of referring to short people as vertically challenged or fat people as
horizontally challenged.
Yeah, I suppose, and like and he's like
challenged.
this urge, he says, is like it's these euphemisms are not actually making any change, like on behalf of the people they're supposedly protecting. So like, I don't know if he mentions the word retard, but that's like a good example. Like, people say, oh no, don't use the word retard, but then like,
but okay, but to connect the two dots, which I'm interested in, is what I hear you.
I'm enthusiastic about what his.
But you seem, but with the suicide, you seem to have like concluded that your degree of agreeing with any of this is would be tempered by the fact that that he went on to kill himself. But the example you gave, I doubt. Like,
no, I'm pretty enthusiastic. Yeah. So yeah. Like so yeah, I guess I think that so to your point, then maybe it doesn't affect it very much in terms of like what's interesting is I hadn't thought of him as a very prescriptive writer. You know what I mean? Oh. Like I hadn't, and that's what I was going to ask you, is like at what point when you're reading the book did you go like, oh, this is a book about how to live my life? Because I didn't come to that realization.
Definitely by the time you got to your 250.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Like, do you remember? Can you give me an example of like what you might have read that might have been like, oh, he's talking about like, or this is affecting this is around because yeah.
Well, I mean the passage that I read about
Hill Street Blues and
that was like at the 140s.
Yeah.
I mentioned shit.
Hawaii 5.
Gerhard shit.
Yeah.
Now the actual passage that I
don't think
I mentioned was, I think, in the 400s, but the introduction of the character of the coach and him espousing something, part of the same paradigm, just was the first instance of that particular paradigm. That shows up at like page like 60 or 70. So it's, fairly early.
I mean, maybe I was caught up in just, oh, this is fun. Like, oh, it's a new character.
Maybe you had a plebeian understanding of what you read.
Plebeian.
Marked it.
Yeah. Sir? Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead. Yeah, say more.
Here's another one. So again, I mentioned this is like kind of like an even more R-rated version of like South Park or The Simpsons, right? And it allows for like reductio ad absurdums to be used to illustrate, because it's very philosophical. So like it actually is important that he can take things to that extreme. There's a character in the book, again, value add. I don't think I've seen any YouTube video talk about this. Eric Clipperton. Eric Clipperton, a player who emerges sort of out of nowhere. Remember, like most of these high school aged tennis players are, at least in the book, we're seeing them at this Boston tennis academy. So there's this player that emerges from outside, and he's like that. The outside is like a metaphor for like it's kind of like a specter. He's more ghost-like than an actual person. He shows up, and he brings a revolver with him, and he literally plays with the gun to his head. So he's like he's swinging the stick with one hand.
The racket, the tennis racket.
They call it a stick, yeah, the racket or the stick. He's swinging it with one hand while always holding the gun to his head. Yeah. So none of the opposing players. Oh, and he's made the explicit threat of like, if you beat me in this match, I'm pulling the trigger. If you lose to me,
so he done it just. It wasn't just a thing he did one time. That's his thing. He's the guy who plays tennis with a gun to his head.
That's his thing.
That's pretty. Okay, that's outside the strains. You were talking about the types of reality stretching. Yeah, it's a reductio ad absurdum type of cartoon type of thing. Okay,
right. So every time the opposing players lose to him, right? Because they don't want to be the person that like catalyzes him like publicly suiciding at whatever tennis match.
That's a weird transfer of responsibility that happens, right? Like
right.
We threaten and then we hold somebody else responsible now for the actions of a first person. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's funny, like David Foster Wallace even bifurcates in the direction you just pointed to. So there's like one player who, and I've never been able to like understand this fully. Like I sort of into it, but I don't fully get it intellectually. But there's one player, his Clipperton's first opponent treats him almost like a god. Like he like literally like after the match like goes down on one knee, and there's like sun like blinding him, so he's sort of like this posture wise, and that man is mentally shattered as a result of not just losing to Clipperton, but like submitting to the mind games, submitting to particularly the mental warfare. Every subsequent player loses to him, but they do it like just in this like matter of like kind of in the way of
they
like,
play the game.
I don't know what you mean by play the game.
Well, I guess the first player played the game too, but I mean, you just like at least you go through at least you're able to go through the motions of finishing and coexisting with them.
The way I see it is more like they like it. This is in. I don't want to like overemphasize this analogy, but like in the same way, if like a homeless person just starts like yelling crazy shit and tries to accost you, right? Like we just pay them no mind, and as long as that person like doesn't enter our physical space, we don't respond to the verbal taunts. So that's how all the other players are responding. Like they're losing the game because they don't want to like trigger a suicide, but they're not like treating it as anything important. It's like
interesting.
Yeah,
like I'm going to lose to him as a matter of course because I don't want to. I'm going to accept this one consequence, but go on with my life, not perturbed by it. Okay.
Yeah. So Clipperton ends up like winning all his tournaments, and then there's like a glitch in the rankings where like previously he used to be unranked because everyone was aware of like how illegitimate these wins were, but then there's like a glitch and he becomes ranked number 1, and he suicides as a result. And I don't think there's
good for him. I think that's sort of a go ahead. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's a connection with David Foster Wallace, even though we just talked about suicides. But the point, but in the book, what he's talking about is like people like it's the ultimate, it's the reductio ad absurdum of win at all costs, like to the point where like you have completely disrespected the boundaries of the game itself.
Okay.
And so he's won, but because he's won and like has no meaning. See, meaning is inherently tied to boundaries. Is an inherent thesis
That's true.
of David Foster Wallace, right? And it's no accident that like tennis is used as the metaphor where like the lines are very explicit and right angled and such. And so Clipperton has no boundaries and has won everything, and hence his life has no meaning, and he kills himself. And man, that helped me so much. That helped me so in the last couple months. So when because it's fairly recent that I got introduced to that, but like again, like Clipperton is the furthest on a continuum. It's really a continuum of how much are people willing to disrespect the boundaries to win this or that game, this or that match, right? And I would see other people do that, and I got so caught, like I lost myself over focusing on he's cheating. He beat me in this game, but he fucking cheated. That's bullshit. And now I'm able to like see like, oh no, like and David Foster Wallace explicitly says this. He's like in the part where you're talking about the tennis as a chess boxing combination. In that same passage, he talks about like you're only playing against yourself. You're ostensibly playing against an opponent, but that's just like kind of an accidental feature of the game that allows you to meet yourself. Coincidentally, Khabib Nurmagomedov always used to talk about
an MMA wrestler, fighter. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And he would talk about like his style was so Nurmagomedov had a wrestling heavy style that was also had some like violent ground and pound, right? So he would take you to the ground. He would basically find some method of pinning you so that you couldn't get back up. And then he would just relentlessly punch you from that pinned position. Is, a simple explanation of his style. What's interesting is how he spoke of that style figuratively. He analogized the pinning of someone and the punching as taking them out into the deep ocean. Now that part you hear other fighters make a similar metaphor. But here's the part that Nurmagomedov, and I don't know if I've heard of any other person say this. He's like, and it's there where they find themselves. Like that, like I mean, just think it, like it's so counterintuitive. Like, yeah, I'm in the biggest fight of UFC history, right? I'm fighting for the lightweight strap. I'm fighting. We don't know in advance, but we're going to end up having 2.4 million pay-per-view buys when the second highest fight did a third less. The second best-selling fight did 33% less than what we're going to do. This is the highest stakes thing. So what is my grandmaster strategy of winning the biggest thing? It's going to involve showing the opponent to himself. And that act will defeat him.
Will that act defeat him? Well, yeah, I mean, it's like it's finding great honor in what you do. You know what I mean? Like it is finding incredible honor in in poetry in what you do. You know.
What do you mean?
Well, like so like LeBron James wants to put the ball in the basket, right? But that can be just let go of as a trivial. Oh, the ball in a basket. That's what putting the ball in the basket as many times as you can. But like, whereas Nurmagomedov submits a fighter, but he's found that in submitting the fighter, he's related to the fighter's state of being submitted, and thought about how that it puts that fighter up against extreme barriers to the point where it's like an amazing, insane challenge to that person's psyche, life, worldview, who knows. And so in that, he's found some sort of like beauty in that, in just the, which just happens to be the object of his sport, just like a ball going through a basket.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so his opponent for that big fight was Conor McGregor, and it was just such a clash of styles. And it's interesting, like, no one's made this video yet that I'm aware of, and it's like you look at the view counts of just general Conor versus McGregor retrospectives, and they're doing like at least 500K. And there's so many videos, like there should be like that 500K number is like is part of an attenuation of how, because of just the competition, but even that does so well. The fight's 5 years old. McGregor's effectively retired. Nurmagomedov has long been formally retired. And yet people can't get enough of this, right? And yet no one's like really touched that. There's one exception which I won't get into, but for the most part, what's been left uncovered is just it was such a clash of philosophy, right? Like Nurmagomedov, we talked about submission in Infinite Jest. Islam literally means submission, right? So he's having a lifestyle that's inherently based on submission. He's having part of that submission is an annual season. I don't know if I'm using the word correctly here, but Ramadan, an annual period of consuming foods and fluids in a way that is it just strictly in terms of biology and separating God and religion out. Eating and drinking that way is completely suboptimal for athletic performance. Right?
Was this fight during Ramadan? Was that?
Why?
You're just noting that part of the
just
faith.
More. I'm not aware of which fights overlaid with Ramadan, but I just know if you've been a mixed martial artist for 5 or 8 or 10 years, I know at some point they're booking something such that Ramadan is like going into your fight camp.
Yeah.
You know, something where it's suboptimal, but it doesn't matter, right? Because his submission to a higher thing, the benefits from that far outweigh the costs of the suboptimal athletic diet and fluid intake for athletes, right? And you have that contrasted with McGregor with what was he saying right after his win with Eddie Alvarez? Oh, I want to apologize to absolutely nobody, right? Like his appeal was, I'm above the law, so to speak. In the lead up, I mean, he fucking threw a dolly through a bus window. Like, we have videotape of serious law breaking, where like you don't have to be a legal scholar to be like, you know, I think people get like months in jail at a minimum if there's a videotape of this level of violence. And he was above the law, right? He escaped any like meaningful legal consequence of that. Then he was like in his promotion, the actual one of the pre-fight press conferences, he's literally drinking his whiskey in the thing and talking like a madman. Nurmagomedov says, like, do you think whiskey will save you in this fight? And so that's my point of that's what I was alluding to about Nurmagomedov saying, like, I take you to the deep waters and show you who you are. So what he was saying is essentially McGregor, how he lives his life is inherently self-destructive. And thus it's not going to be so much that Nurmagomedov destroys McGregor as he's going to reposition McGregor such that he is witness or the receiver of McGregor is going to be Nurmagomedov is going to control McGregor to make McGregor the receiver of McGregor's own destructive force, and that is how the fight will be won.
That's interesting. I hadn't, though there's scenes from the tennis academy, and I'd been introduced to this football punter. I hadn't thought that there was that much sports to be talked about, and I like your leaning into the philosophy of sports and where that can be had. I think the first David Foster Wallace I ever read was his Roger Federer article, because he wrote a long appreciation of Roger Federer. I mean, it was just, and it's just absurdly wrong. Absurdly long to the point where it's like not a sport. It's like you think you're reading you read an article like, oh, Roger Federer, and then it's like, oh, this isn't a sports article. This is like going off into his childhood and hitting forehands and backhands in Minnesota or whichever state it was that he was stationed in when he grew up.
Here's another one. There's a young player who is obsessed with achieving stardom, right? Because for context, right, this is a tennis academy of middle school and high school players who some of them are going to do well enough that they make it to the pro tour.
Wanting fame and recognition is normal. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the book features this character, Lyle, who again, like the picture, like the lack of realism of like Simpsons or South Park. So Lyle literally resides in the weight room. He is able to like levitate if he wants. He subsists off of the sweat of the young players who work out there. And in exchange, he dispenses wisdom. So basically, every time like Lyle shows up in the book, David Foster Wallace is like dropping some wisdom.
I don't know. I feel like I might have got to him, but I don't know if I did. Yeah. I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember him. So if I read about him, I must have like been like so confused as to read through it. But I wasn't reading it that fast, so I don't think I really got to him. Or maybe it was right when I got to him that I stopped reading. Anyway,
yeah.
Keep going.
So Lamont Chu is the young player obsessed with stardom, and he goes to Lyle, and he's just basically in agony of like just how much this is burning him up, and that like his over obsession with achieving as an extrinsic means to achieve the stardom is now ironically causing that performance to decline, which makes sense, or sort of
his
I'm so obsessed with my own performance.
My performance is getting worse.
To try to get something out of it, to use it as currency to buy something, whatever, women, fame, drugs, money, etc. That I'm so obsessed with it now. My performance is declining.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Lamont Chu goes to Lyle with, and Lyle talks about how like, it would be hypothetically, like counterfactually, it would be one thing if those athletes who achieve that level of celebrity and success and fame end up having a compensatory pleasure that is equal in magnitude, albeit opposite in direction, to the pain that Lamont Chu is experiencing. But that's actually not how it is. Like they feel a temporary high when they first hit that achievement, and then the rest of their lives are at best they feel like largely neutral towards their fame, and at worst they feel like some anxiety about like their ability to stay at the top of the heap. And that was just really helpful for me of like I have my own version. I'm not going to share them, but my own versions of like what I want to achieve, and to the point of like obsessing over that. And it's a good reminder of like, assuming I actually scale that mountain, it's not like I'm going to receive an amount of pleasure that is equal in magnitude to the pain I'm presently feeling obsessing over the pursuit or the stalled out pursuit of this success.
Yeah, that's the pleasure is an imagined thing out of probably the perverted, beer commercial dreams we have, as a cult, collectively as a result of the sort of misguided things we were talking about earlier, the misguided addictive tendencies. Speaking of addictive tendencies, so there's another character I wanted to ask about, but I'm not because he was responsible for like at least one of this very early, like on pages 15 to 20 or somewhere like that. There's like there's like a paragraph that's 4 pages long, and then within there's like a sentence that's 1 page long, and I think it's all during this discussion of this one character who's like super. He talks about like getting this specific kind of weed that like just fucking takes him out for
Right. Yeah.
Who was that character?
Ken Erdedy.
Okay, is that just one of the players on the team then at Enfield Academy?
No,
or?
he's so remember Don Gately is the house manager of a recovery house.
Oh.
Ken is just a client.
Okay.
Where like statistically speaking, most of them never submit to the structure of a house.
Oh, okay. Really? So he might even So he's like he might just go to some meetings, but doesn't actually like stay there or doesn't live there, so to speak. It's like
yeah. Well, what were you? Where were you getting at with invoking that?
I was just wondering if there's anything more about addiction to be taken from that we haven't, from his or experience. I mean, he sounds like another. Would he sort of fit with Oren, like another character who just exemplifies like addiction writ large, or addiction as a lifestyle?
So, what was I about to say? Okay. So first of all, I think David Foster Wallace does an amazing job of depicting addiction.
Yeah.
I think most depictions fall way short. I think like if you looked at it chronologically, and hold that thought about chronology. I want to make a totally different point, but on that same
Pulp
word.
Fiction related, perhaps. Okay.
I think the earlier depictions of addiction emphasize the quote craziness of it. I think just to make a more generalized point, like we typically refer to something as crazy when we just don't fully understand it. B, we don't want to fully understand it, and therefore C, the term crazy that's applied to it is just used principally to invalidate.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like I don't want to like go back into this discussion, but just to footnote it. When I was talking about the big book being essentially a first draft, even in its present form, like the amount of times it refers to the insanity of the first drink. I actually think that's like this like primordial. It represents like a primordial understanding of addiction. So
it's like just sort of setting up that it's something you don't want to do anymore for some reason, but you don't really have to. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
there's no like etaology or explanation of the genesis of it.
It's a phenomenon, but also there's something there about when I think about my bottom, or like when any addict tells their story, and it's like there's the question of like, am I an addict? Like, did I have a deep enough bottom? So that's like kind of what you're talking about in a way, in a different way, right? Like, is it when things got crazy?
Yeah.
When did things get crazy? Well, it's up to you, really.
You're right. That's Okay, that's true. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I mean, actually, like, so I'm gonna circle back to Ken Erdedy. I haven't forgotten him,
Sure.
but I want to reference like another part in Infinite Jest first, because again, like, um, Infinite Jest, David Foster Wallace makes use of reductio ad absurdums when it serves whatever point he's trying to make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in one scene, there's a woman giving an AA share. She's like super young in recovery. You know, it's probably like her first 3 months or so. And oh man, it's fucked up to even like recount a fictional story. But her main thesis in her share is my alcoholism was caused by abuse, and she.
It's fucked up because you're violating her confidentiality from the meeting that she was the fictional meeting.
No, the details of it.
Oh, it's just they're fucked up. The details are fucked up.
The details are like it goes into graphical nature.
Okay.
Describing how her father nightly raped her
Okay.
retarded sister.
Okay.
Like this, like so retarded you can't even fight back. You can't even voice a protest.
Oh.
And this repeated rape and the specifics of the fetishes involved within the rape, that this is the entirety of this AA share as depicted in the book. So that's what I was like, man, it's fucked up. Like even
Yeah.
thinking about it. But it's a reductio ad absurdum, right? It's like come up with a story that's just so it has such prima facie evidence that the abuse that you suffered caused you to be an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, even then, David Foster Wallace depicts the AA group's response to her share as essentially disapproving, to illustrate the point of like, you just should not talk about, you should not speculate as to like what you think caused your alcoholism.
Mm.
There, he actually is very approving of AA. And it's interesting if you think about like the structure of the first 164 pages of the big book, right? You've got Bill's story.
I love Bill's story.
Good. Happy for you. It makes one of us. You've got Bill's story. You've got then like for I think at least 2 chapters, it's all about just showing you like, hey, it's diagnosing like you're an alcoholic.
I related. Bill's pounding on the bar that he couldn't fucking believe he was there again. Like, because it's his establishment of crazy, as like, I was gonna quit and then I used again, and then I was gonna quit and then I used it again, and I'm like, okay,
you really related to that?
I really thought by the 3rd time, like, he really quit. Yeah, for me, it's like just like quitting other behaviors, but same like, holy shit, yeah, that is.
That was like
using it again.
You?
I mean, was just like, oh yeah, I get this. And I read it like sort of when I first read it, I wasn't necessarily thinking I was an alcoholic, and I still didn't necessarily think I was an alcoholic. But I thought, oh, this dude is a human being going through something I have fucking experienced. Yeah, like addiction. I mean, I think you described addiction well in that. Just in the 8 pages leading up to him meeting Ebby.
That's so interesting. Like I knew I was an addict, alcoholic, like long, years before I first read the big book. And I think most people are. I understand intellectually that there's going to be some people on the other end, but I was nonetheless surprised to hear that your first read of at least parts of the big book was during a time where you actually believed you were not alcoholic. That's interesting. Okay. So so after we get to we conclude the wonderful Bill story, and we get to we get to the next two chapters, which actually, to your point, it's well serving to an alcoholic of your type, where it's designed to show you, like, hey man, like,
You're an alcoholic.
you're an alcoholic. That's basically
More about
you could like
alcoholism.
retitled the first two chapters as "You're an Alcoholic."
More about alcoholism. I forget what chapter 2 is called. Yeah.
Right. I don't recall either.
Not that memorable, chapter 2.
But and then it gets into like what the solution is. I mean, there's a chapter dedicated to if you're agnostic,
agnostics.
This shit'll still work for you.
His religious
paraphrase title, and then you get to how this shit works.
Yep.
But nowhere does it talk about the etiology of alcoholism. It really like is have you ever noticed that, like how conspicuously absent it is in discussing that?
Like what? Yeah, like what would make you that way? Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's more like
seriously,
you're born. Yeah, it's classified as a disease.
Before I mentioned that
So
5
not
seconds
philosophically.
ago, like, had you ever thought about like, wow, this is like
Missing
conspicuously
from the book?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I hadn't. No, I hadn't given as full of a critique of it.
What about the shares in the rooms? Have you ever noticed that absence, and or that people who do broach that subject tend to have less than 1 year of continuous sobriety?
No, I definitely not noticed that.
Yeah.
Huh. It's like they're too smart for the program. Perhaps.
It depends. I mean, it's a vague phrase. It depends on what you mean by that. I mean, I think it's just like we know a solution, and like the Occam's razor is we're
engaged in
just apply the fucking solution,
yeah.
and don't adulterate it with this added thing.
Well, it's almost like my like taking the what you're identifying solution oriented application lessons from this book, and you're bringing me back onto course when I'm like, oh, this is a societal something or other. It's like no, it's much more interesting to talk about how to live your own life.
Right.
So it's kind of like that. Also, I mean, in other words, these societal observations or the general problem diagnostics, diagnosing the personality types that fall into addiction might be beyond our it's like beyond our pay grade, and possibly taking us away from that path of
well, there's
solving the problem.
There's what AA believes, and there's what John believes.
Yeah.
Right. So with AA, like, remember, AA ultimately achieved what it set out to achieve, which was having worldwide scalability. Right. Like there's AA in every country.
Yeah.
So a McDonald's in every country like necessitates there has to be a fairly simplistic process to making these burgers.
Yeah.
They can't be artisan creations.
Yeah.
And so there's no way that this could there's no alternate universe where AA is also worldly popular, but there's so much of the content now branches off into why did you become an alcoholic?
Right.
It's just too complex for that scalability.
Yep.
But I'm an N of one. Like let Alcoholics Anonymous do what it does.
But
I
want
me, to the extent that I can handle that complexity, I want that. There are benefits in my life that are a direct function of my exploration of why I'm an alcoholic. I understand, though, that it's getting really fucking close in terms of prescribing that to another person. It's getting really fucking close to advocating that Adam and Eve eat that fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that people talk about like there's the famous AA big book circuit speakers, Joe and Charlie, talk about learning, hearing about some term like you have an allergy, and people told him like, well, he asked, well, what's that mean? And they're like, don't worry about it, just don't drink. But he's like, but if you're an alcoholic, you leave something like that hanging, like you're not going to be able to just let that dangle out there. So I looked up, and then they go into their explanation of the allergy, because it's like, so you can only close the door on, you can only, you can't, in other words, maybe you can't.
It's funny.
You can't be you don't want to be the serpent, but you don't necessarily want to be God telling people not to look up stuff either, right? Because they're gonna fucking people. They took the apple. You know what I mean? People will take the apple. People want to know. People want to learn shit.
Well, David Foster Wallace like explicitly argues the opposite in Infinite Jest.
Yeah, and okay.
There's even a passage where like it's like you'll ask an old timer how does it work, and the old timer responds just fine.
Sure. Yeah. It's if you okay, and it's probably like some sort of it seems wise.
For me personally, I mean, one, I think I've probably over the years tried to take people intellectually too far to outside the frontier land of the AA orthodoxy. One, two, AA just has so many like built-in contradictions, like just even in the text itself.
Sure. Yeah.
That like. I'm going to say something judgmental, but like I think the dumber a person is, the less that they feel like living their lives by overt contradictions is like explicitly problematic,
right?
And thus they're just they really don't care when that type of thing is brought to them. I think that for other people, we all have a problem surrendering to with the initial surrender of alcoholism, right? At that when we go from stage 0 of this shit's got to stop, step 0, to step 1, the admission of powerlessness. The barrier is always like, can I trust the thing that I'm surrendering to? And the intellectual barrier that I see is people just being like, well, I can already see like explicit, inarguable wrongness in terms of logical contradictions. What happens when I like peel back the rest of the curtain? Like, is it gonna be logical contradictions in front of the curtain? Then I peel it back and it's like a sponsor abusing me or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for maybe those people, something like Infinite Jest might be helpful to them because it's able to present things in a way that like allays their concern for a logical explanation. But admittedly, that's such a small slice of people. It like that's sort of a limitation of this book, is like who is really down for like this level of complexity and paradox.
I mean, do you think this book is for addicts necessarily, or I mean, do you think this book is for addicts? Sort of written for addicts? I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, sounds like.
Well, I think when you're in the usage of addict that you just said, I think you're tell me if I'm wrong. I think you're defining it as someone with a phenomenon of craving issue that's so bad that they have to have a 12-step program or similar to recover. Because
that definition, right? That definition smaller than like for addicts, like, well, all people if you say addicts a certain way, it almost includes all people, right?
Right.
We're all we have all have the propensity to addiction.
Right.
So we're all addicts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have, like, from the doctor's opinion, you've got the mental obsession, and then you've got the physical allergy, which is synonymous with that phenomenon of craving.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody has the former.
Mm-hmm. The mental obsession, yeah.
The mental obsession, and we're living in a society that's like social media is. What was the point I was gonna make with that? It. Oh yeah, like that. There's in Infinite Jest, there's so many depictions of people like losing touch with reality in some way.
Yeah.
And really connecting that with like this is a big manifestation of addiction. But like social media is like literally designed to present something that is not what actually is reality.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's some figment of reality, right? Because it's like if I record myself and then put it on social media, I recorded an actual thing, but it's like I'm going outside my own life when I take in my social media stream, or I'm like, I don't know. Can we unpack that idea of in what way it's a departure from reality? Social media.
I mean, I mean, you don't see somebody like who's on their LinkedIn profile. They've got that George Costanza meme of like he's on the couch with the potato chip crumbs
So
on
the curation.
Like, there's a fuckload of people who are searching for jobs that like while they're without work, their daily routine looks something like that.
I see. Yeah.
So that's. It's like it's not a like true to fact recording.
Right.
Social media,
right,
it's not.
right. Yeah, it's and so we almost have a society like I don't know that I keep coming back to that fragmenting effect that we talked about earlier. So like if we're because a lot of it is the what social media has done is it's increased fragmentation, maybe like because so many people can create, and then and it's given so many places for our attention spans to go. So yeah.
So did you get to Joelle Van Dyne's character in Infinite
is that a
Jest?
lady?
Yeah.
I think
it's a lady.
I think I
not a street woman, but a lady.
I barely maybe was she romantically involved with the Incondenza dad? No.
She she was.
I think I got to her, but not enough.
She was
to really
dating
get to know
Oren.
Her. Oh, was she?
And then she
yeah, that sounds familiar.
And then she like did film. She was an actress in the films of James, the dad, in Condensa. They never did anything romantic. But Oren suspected that they did something romantic. Oren's mom, Avril, suspected it. And there is something of like, because James gave up drinking at the request of Joelle, but Avril was not able to get him to give it up. Which, by the way, I am not opining personally that I view that as akin to romantic infidelity, but I understand why someone who's married to that person would view that, at least would be tempted to view that as a trespass, as opposed to like the more mature thing of just being happy that your husband stopped drinking, irrespective of the cause, and whether the cause was a hot woman.
So what else about Joelle? What's the why did you ask about her?
Yeah, Infinite Jest is so fucking good, man. It's so good. It's so good. So they don't know if this actually is like a real organization. I believe it's fictional. It's either created out of whole cloth or it's magnified in its importance through David Foster Wallace's fiction. But there's basically like an analogous like 12-step group for I think it was like the UHID is the acronym. It was like I think the Union for the Hideously and Improbably Deformed.
Okay.
And it's just basically ugly motherfuckers who like suffer from every sort of. When you think about it, like there's, and David Foster Wallace like humorously like finds a way to like essentially read out a list of. You think about like there's a million different like biological conditions where like one of the symptoms is makes you uglier.
Millions of okay.
You know, like skin conditions, growth conditions.
Yeah.
You know, missing facial organs, too many. You know, there's a lot of different ways for biology to make you ugly, and so they form their own 12-step group. But it's so cool because it's a rhetorical device to talk about at least about what what one good aspect of AA. It might even be like a double-edged sword, but I don't know enough about that to comment to expand upon the double-edgedness. But it has to do with hiding. And that there's like that addiction is one of its main characteristics is an impulse to hide oneself, and the end that there's at that first level you're not at unhealthiness yet. The problem is that most of us then go to the second level, which is we hide our impulse to hide.
Okay.
Right. Like just like opening up with someone being like, man, I really like think of someone who's like picture a boyfriend and a girlfriend and I don't know. There's something that they're discussing that it touches upon some aspect of their relationship, and the boyfriend says like, man, I really feel shame right now over this. And he's not histrionic about it. He's not like
that's healthy. Yeah,
that's healthy.
Yeah,
right. So he's got the first level impulse to hide, which is
shame. Shame's not good, but everybody has it. But you have it. Yeah.
Well, it's neither good nor bad. It's
that's a fair point.
Like straight up shamelessness is really bad.
It's shame. Well,
it's just that most people. It's like saying body weight is neither inherent.
Well, I have another book over there of like I'm pointing over to. There's some books vaguely over there. I was tempted to get up and look for it, but what if it's not there? Then I'd be ashamed. It's the. It's The Art of Surrender, and he has a spectrum of emotions, each with its energy level.
Oh, I remember us talking about this years ago when I said the Enneagram, and you were like, "No, you can jump from levels." I was like, "No, you can't. They're on a set track." Yeah, go ahead.
So shame is the very bottom. Shame is one of the very lowest level of emotion. Like, it's the worst emotion in terms of energy level. It's like the worst energy level emotion you would have. That said, I don't disagree with what you said that like it could be you look at it as a value neutral thing, like an appropriate for certain.
It's like blood sugar,
right?
Like there is such a thing as hypoglycemia.
Yeah.
There's too much.
Yeah.
My company Resolute, we have a treatment that we're working on for hypoglycemia.
Sponsored by.
There is such a thing as too low blood sugar. Most people have a problem of too much blood sugar. So it's like that with shame. There is such a thing as too little shame. I think that's like one of the defining features of, I think, sociopathy.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
right? So
Makes sense.
shame is not inherently bad. You need some of it, and we collectively, you're statistically that much more likely to have too much shame than too little, and
Yep.
hence why
Yep.
it just gets a bad rap. Full stop.
That's why I put it there. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So Joel,
Oh yeah. So they wear a veil.
the you hid meetings.
Yeah. Oh my god. I just connected the acronym just saying it out loud. I should
no
like
shit.
read this book out loud. Yeah, Gerhard shit and the UHID meetings. Yeah, yeah, like so man, that was so helpful to me. That was so helpful to me. Like okay, just like I was saying at the beginning of like knowing what the entertainment is, and anytime I'm trying to go into that Miller time context,
Yeah.
or I'm upset simply at the presentation of the newest form of adversity, which
Mhm.
I get that happens to me. Like I get upset over shit like that daily. It's a weakness of mine. Right. I can see abstractly, like I don't need 86 to 88 to tell me that, or there is no part of the big book that I'm aware of that says you should embrace adversities for their own sake.
Mm.
You know, but so that entertainment thing got me there. With the hiding thing too, it's like basically the more I'm engaging with life, the more I'm in recovery. The more that I'm hiding, the more I'm returning to the disease. And so that's manifested like, yo, boom. Ugh. I don't like to dress up inherently. If I had and you saw me years ago, and you have it on my first appearance on Screenaholics. You can look it up. Like, I'm dressing like fucking Bill Belichick.
Frumpy. Bill Belichick.
Frumpy.
The more you engage, the more you're in recovery. The more you're hiding, the more you're moving toward back toward addiction.
Right. So dressing like this, a lot of us like order food at a restaurant to go here and there. I now, a higher percentage of times that I decide to order from a restaurant, I will eat it at that restaurant. Or at a minimum, I will take it to the common area, the kitchen of
so
the house.
A little less hiding out.
And eat it there rather than in my bedroom. The value of the fifth step of not hiding about it.
Yeah,
right? We don't stop at the fourth step. It isn't like, well, you did your inventory and you're aware of your shit. Good job. It's like you need to go to the fifth step. You need to not hide about
Empty it out. Yeah.
And it's so cool. Like, there's a lot of like men's team stuff like where I don't think it's like optimized or even explicitly thought of like how our men's team stuff is. Well, a lot of it is actually, let me take that back. A lot of it is good for mental health. A lot of it is really good for mental health. But some parts are like, I don't know. What I'm getting is I'm really happy that we like explicitly use the phrasing hiding out on the men's team.
Yeah.
Like it's I don't know. I just find it ironic that that's the one play. It's not even in AA that much, but on our men's team of all places, where we like identify this lesser talked about aspect of addictive behavior.
Yeah. So hiding out, a thing we do. It's not recovery. No, it feels like it when I'm. If addictive behavior feels like hiding out, and then you'll have the feeling when the phone rings and you're like, oh no, or oh darn, or if they caught me, you know what I mean? Like so yeah, and I'm really also just want to reiterate sort of this lesson of reading the book and getting a prescription, like just that's talking about the book in this way of the way you live your life, because in a way maybe that itself is engaging more as opposed to reading to hide out. Like
Right. Yeah, I'll read at the cafe
mm-hmm.
as opposed to like on the couch in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also engaging with the author's ideas like how does this pertain to how I live my life, as opposed to what a fun show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the only although I guess in defense of the fun show, it's like maybe a good author is able to make it fun, because if it were just like here's a prescription on how to live your life, nobody would read that, or people would be less inclined to, like there is some balance to, like, it's both a prescription and it's a fun show.
Yeah, I mean, David Foster Wallace explicitly said he was trying to achieve that dual purpose with Infinite Jest.
Okay, yeah. So one of the, I don't know if you've alluded to the chapter in Ebonics. It's difficult to read, and you also talked about this person sharing about disturbing graphic sexual abuse in their past.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that the Ebonics person had some sexual abuse going on. Was that the same? Was that coincidentally two similar stories, or was that the same story?
Different
person?
stories.
Okay. But that's not the important question where I want to go with. Like, I'm more interested in. I know that Ebonics section has been criticized. It's part of the Wallace blowback.
I knew I was like giving you some red meat.
Well, I mean, but I think it was in the context of such criticism that he wrote this stuff about political correctness. That, and I don't know the chronology of which was written when, but his point about political correctness was, sort of finishing a thought from earlier, that it's the pretending you're protecting somebody by calling them a euphemism does nothing to protect them. If anything, if anything, it hurts the cause of helping them, because it creates a climate of fear around saying the right thing, and sort of gets rid of this atmosphere of honesty that one has about one could have if they're actually going to solve a problem, or one needs to have more ability to speak freely when they solve a problem. Okay, but now I'm finishing this thought from earlier. It sounded like, as he led to this critique of political correctness, he talked about standard written English and maybe standard black English, and like he'd obviously experienced and dealt with both. He'd spoken with, and he was talking in the context of telling students why he was going to teach them to write standard written English, because it's the language of power, and yet, like, it's not better. I don't think he was. So anyway, I think the criticisms of him are bullshit on that line. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on this. Yeah, go ahead. What were you about to? What were you going to say?
Well, there's a badass YouTuber who goes by the handle Right Conscious.
I think the only video I watched this week about David Foster Wallace happened to be by Right Conscious, actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And he, the one like little snippet that I've had on the David Foster Wallace black grammar thing was, Right Conscious said that David Foster Wallace claimed that that Ebonics is like inherently ungrammatical. I don't fucking know. Like I don't. But I was just bringing that up because you had just said like that he claimed that it was, but that it wasn't the language of power.
It's a dialect.
But he went further and said that there was like structural problems inherent with it. Is all I'm saying. Whatever. Who cares? So this actually just connects to like what I was saying about why people actually dislike the book, those who do. Are you familiar with like where Skip Bayless, the sports commentator, received his biggest backlash?
No.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
I'm guessing it's LeBron James related, maybe? No.
No,
It's not.
I mean, it's actually like the counter to that, like that. You know, I think Skip Bayless like accused certain athletes of being closetedly gay in with the insinuation that like to be such is to equal bad. And yet like that never, no one even like seriously ever broached like we should cancel him over this. His criticisms that you just mentioned about LeBron have like gone right up to the line. Like, what? What? There was something about like him playing off of the moniker, the king. Oh, the drama king.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I mean, it's like telling it's going right up to the line of being like, you male are bad insofar as you act female.
Mm-hmm.
Insofar as you act female.
Mm-hmm.
But he, again, no one ever even broached the like drama. We should cancel him specifically because drama king. Okay, so what did he actually get in hot water for? There was a Buffalo Bills player, I think a safety,
who
had a heart attack.
I remember
in the middle of the game.
Yeah, Dummer Hamlin or something.
Yeah. Definitely Hamlin is his last name.
Against the Bengals, and they canceled the game, or they
Yeah, and so Skip like opined on Twitter of like he was surprised at how they were handling the game. I think maybe even surprised that they were canceling it.
That's
and like even said something about like, wow, that's not how they used to do it, which is like, it's a value neutral statement.
I kind of I was quietly saying the same thing. Yeah.
Right. It's so it was like, okay, so we're really upset with Skip about A, but we're gonna get that motherfucker on B.
Yeah, makes sense. They got him because he was on the list of people that they were going to cancel him for A, but then B came up. So this was
So that's what I speculate is
with Wallace.
A is we're upset you didn't give us the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings ending where
we don't like you. Yeah,
explicitly spell it out. B is you fucking dared to write a passage in Ebonics.
How about the was the passage? Is there anything else to be said about that character or subplot from the book? Like, is there?
No.
Okay.
Nothing really interesting to me.
Interesting.
I mean, maybe just to give like a banal observation, like that there's different like short-term consequences to succumbing to addiction, right? Some of the like pampered tennis academy students are total addicts, and it's like no one's dying over it, no one's ODing.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, they're not even that like much of a serious risk of expulsion. And then on the end of the spectrum with some of the characters who, in this case, like actually speak Ebonics, they die, one of them dies from a hot shot. So just that observation, just like The Wire,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like how different people were abusing drugs, but there were like totally different consequences depending on like economic strata. All right, I want to get to just kind of a totally different topic, which is how I rank books, because I have a very abnormal way of doing it, and I guess idiosyncratic way. I'm really big on ranking books ahistorically. I think it's very misleading to do what we actually do, which is rank books historically.
So by ranking them historically, you mean like breaking them out into categories based on what century they were written in, or so ranking
More the like counting what books that were subsequently written that were influenced by the first book for or against the status of the first book.
So a book should not be held responsible for or given credit for its later influence.
Yeah.
Later influence. Okay.
Or I mean ideally you would just have like different ranking lists that would explicitly say this is the ahistorical list, this is the historical list. And here's why. Here's what's motivating my thing.
Yeah.
That we read a finite number of books in our lives.
Yep.
I think even like for people who decide, I want to get into the classics. I've never done that before, and I kind of been intrigued. I want to do this. I think it's safe to say that like a vast majority of even those people will not end up having read 60 classics before they croak.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So
that is interesting that we have these book lists of the top 100 books, and then most people don't read 100
right
adult books. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another conversation. Yeah, that too. So given that we're reading a finite number of books, then the element of opportunity cost should really be factored in.
Opportunity cost. Okay.
Like if I'm going to read a 500-page classic book X, that means it's going to come at the expense of classic book Y, which I will never read before I die.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so we've got like books like Robinson Crusoe. Have you read that one?
I have not.
Okay. So it's like one of the first novels that went from a like poetical type writing to prose. And I don't know if you're like familiar with that history, but like it in the switch over it went from one extreme to the other. So it went from like this very like flowery poetical stuff, or I should say like non-literal poetical, to like autistic level literal enumeration of things.
Midway through the book, or
no, like as in the 50 years or 100 years prior to Robinson Crusoe, everything written up to them was like
Chaucer.
Right.
Okay.
And then you get to the time of Daniel Defoe's time, and now he's like literally like, all right, there were 7 raccoons, and I found like there was enough flour that like it was 8 teaspoons worth.
Okay.
Like it's crazy. It's like it literally reads like a fucking laundry list in like many different parts. It's not that great of writing. You wouldn't like if someone wrote that today, you'd be like, what the fuck's up with all this like listing out of things, and it makes sense historically where it was like, the first people give credit like, wow, this book is associated with the first to do
they dared
X.
depart from an old style. Yeah.
And even they probably introduced a better style.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a mere departure. It typically is an introduction of, at least if not an outright better method, at least an alternative method which would spawn all these great books that would use this method. Like there's value in its genealogy for sure, but that's the historical ranking list. From the standpoint of an ahistorical, i.e., I'm only going to read what X number of books before I croak do I want to read the prototype? It's like, hey, do y'all have that new iPhone 17? No, we just sold our last one. But would you like version 1? We have that we can sell you at the same price. You'd be like, get the fuck out of here, you know? Like, I want the best instantiation of whatever. So, Robinson Crusoe, you know, Madame Bovary. Admittedly, I haven't finished that one, but I read like 100 pages, and then I was like, I'll eventually return to it probably. But that was a book where previously, whenever you had a narrator who was describing characters that were who were acting immorally, the narrator always had like a finger wagging tone to it, like that, and typically there was a sense of those people like getting their comeuppance. Madame Bovary was like one of the first novels to just depict this non-judgmentally. Like, okay, right? And I think of it as like the Sex in the City of its time.
Okay.
You know, it's like, and there's other things to like Flaubert was a perfectionist, and perfectionism is obviously bad for writing lots of books, but it is good from the reader's perspective that given that this book was written, it's great that it was written perfectionistically, like everything's smoothed out. It's really like the optimal sentence by sentence, and you get a sense of that in a way that's actually very rare, even among the great writers, and I appreciate that. That's not enough for it to be like the number 22nd best book of all time, which is its current ranking. It's largely that changing to an amoral presentation of things is why it enjoys that ranking. It's like, well, someone's gonna read that, or like I did. I saw him like, whoa, number 22. This must be a really great book. And then I learned like, oh fuck, that's why this thing got its ranking.
Unless there are secrets in Madame Bovary that are not unpacked by a reading of the first 100 pages.
It's true.
Much like maybe, you know. So.
Okay, but Robinson Crusoe.
Get it the hell out of there. Well, where?
So what's your opinion on what I just said?
Where does? Well, no, I imagine that there are some. Yeah, that makes sense. That there will be some historical, like, you know, some books that get historical props.
Like, generally, do you see any problems with like where books generally are ranked? Like we've got that.
I'm not familiar enough.
Okay.
Like, I'm not familiar enough with the yeah, like.
What about some books, classic books, anecdotal reputation versus like you read and you're like, man, that book was bullshit.
My experience around this is that, and what Infinite Jest seems to most compares to in my mind is James Joyce's Ulysses. So, and we read that as my mom, my dad, and I had a book club in the 2000s, and we
this is back in the time.
No, it was no, it was no stoned Ulysses readings. No,
of course not.
And but my dad chose Ulysses, and it almost killed the book club because it was such a hard read and nobody could read it. But eventually like I got a hold of this book called Rejoice by Anthony Burgess, the writer of Clockwork Orange, and it's like it was like a interpreter, it unlocked the book. And it turns out that Ulysses is written in all these different styles, making like sort of allusions to and parodies of all these different authors. And it made me, and it's like, oh yeah, Ulysses is awesome, but you had to have like a companion reader. But my dad's conclusion was that, you know, these book lists are ridiculous, and, you know, Ulysses sucks because he was impatient with it and didn't, you know, give it a full reading. So I think, you know, I'm hesitant to to judge the rankings of these scholars or whatever, because I think that, you know, my experience has been it's gonna be rewarding to go. And I haven't gotten through every book.
Oh, come on! Like, you have to have read some classic. You're like, what the fuck.
Moby Dick would be the one that I read that was like, what the fuck? But I didn't, by that time I don't remember exactly where I left off with it. It was 150 pages in, 100 pages. I don't know. So
Okay. I've read
Mr.
plenty.
Trepanowski has read Moby Dick, so he right.
That's the
And it's good.
that's the third greatest book of all time.
Well, but you sound like is that according to you or according to that
according
list?
to me.
Okay.
According to me.
Okay. All right. Well, and what's the 13th greatest book of all time?
According to me.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm
All right.
just
So
te-
I've got
I'm just testing your list to see how big it is.
I've got S tier, which is comprised of 4 books.
Nice.
What do you? Well, I already told you. The Brothers Karamazov is the greatest book of all time. Indisputable.
Interesting.
Stephen King's It, second greatest. All right, that's
Stephen King's It. Wow. And
it's just
Right
total
Conscious
partiality.
has some videos about Stephen King and David Foster Wallace and their various opinions of each other.
Right. So
I never read it. I read The Stand.
okay,
I mean,
I read both.
I didn't like the ending, but I don't feel like
Right.
he stuck the ending.
I agree.
Cool.
Moby Dick, third greatest. Infinite Jest, fourth greatest book of all time. The last entry into S tier. Then tier things, I don't know. Because they really, see, my S tiers are like, okay, set aside Stephen King's It. That's just, okay.
It's just
But the other
it's a
three,
sentimental favorite.
they deal with fundamental problems of existence, either ethical or metaphysical. Ethical in Brothers K and Infinite Jest, metaphysical in Moby Dick. Then you get like that when you get to that A tier, like it's a big change where there's, like Lolita is there just for its unapologized aesthetic value, right? I love Grapes of Wrath, but like in terms of the three-dimensional thing that we talk about, I'm a Gandhi, right? Like, and I can understand like Curly's and Clint's are probably not going to like that book nearly as much as a Gandhi would. So that one, Plato's Republic.
Boy, that seems like such a different genre. How does that even go in the same list?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you on that. Gulliver's Travels. I don't think I had the one. I really enjoyed the Once and Future King, but I don't think I.
Who wrote that?
I mean, I'm blanking on it.
That sounds
right
familiar.
now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I liked. I had like when I think of. I find myself wanting to throw in books that are also outside the genre, but they're like telling you how to live books, like Mere Christianity or The Road Less Traveled or some Eckhart Tolle.
Oh,
even though they're not. I
Zen
know.
and the Art of Motorcycle
Oh
Maintenance.
yes, yeah,
Right.
Yeah. But I feel like it's more like my own. That's a story of my own attachments and not like certainly Eckhart Tolle influenced me a lot, but I don't feel like his. It would seem like some kind of sacrilege to put one of his books on a list of greatest books.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah, right. If we confine this to a greatest list of fiction.
Yeah, I liked, but I did like Grapes of Wrath. I liked, and there's another Nabokov called Pale Fire that is worth.
I've read it.
Oh yeah.
I read them Lolita and Pale Fire consecutively.
I tried to pick up Pale Fire again recently, but I couldn't. I didn't get very far. Steppenwolf.
I haven't read that yet. What do you think?
Oh, I think Herman Hesse is a trip, and I think that's it's very fantastic. Like it's a lot of fun.
Does it relate to like quote unquote men's work in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I wonder if but I don't. It's hard for me to look at it from this lens of what is it telling you about how to live your life. I think that yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me to speak for it in that lens because I don't remember. I didn't get a strong message, except like lean into your art, maybe.
Okay, here's another thing. I have a premise that's like its own thesis. So you know how we have like we humans are Homo sapiens, but we have like our cousins like Homo erectus, Neanderthals, etc. My thesis is I believe that if you go far enough back in time definitely like it once you've hit 2,000 years ago, definitely by that point, but I would argue even closer in time than that. That those species, while like by whatever like taxonomy that biologists use, like yeah, those are technically Homo sapiens too. I would argue like in a meaning sense, they may as well be a different species. The humans of Homer's time may as well have been a different species. The humans of Jesus' time may as well have been a different species.
The NBA players of the 1970s may have well been a different species.
Not quite that, but yeah.
Wait, what was you after Homer? The one you used?
Jesus.
Jesus' time.
And I don't know. I admittedly don't know enough history to like take us from 1 AD to, but that follows then with like the book rankings.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, the like Homer's works.
Yeah.
Cool historically.
Yeah.
Really doesn't have much relevance to say to people today. And then so if we're just having a rankings from the standpoint of you've got about 60 more classics in your car before the engine breaks.
Yeah.
I actually would not read that. On the other end of the time spectrum, you could have who knows what is going to happen 800 years from now, 400 years from now, even 100 years from now in terms of like how prominent addiction is in our lives. I would think it would last for a bit, but like I could also see us like evolving to like a point where like just what human experiences is so unimaginable compared. We cannot imagine today what it will be like 250 years from now, such that like subjectively it wouldn't even be compatible with being addicted versus being present to life. I don't know. So, but my point is, I don't need. Insofar as this great book, Infinite Jest, was written at a time that coincides with my life, I feel no guilt at elevating it really high because I'm coming at it from the standpoint of who today, what books should a person today read? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hear, that in a way, like, yeah, there's the question of how useful it'll be in the future but to society, but it's kind of unknowable. But how useful is it to me? And that's a good predictor of how useful it'll be to others.
Yeah.
And it's we do have a tendency, I think, reading Tolstoy, one of the things I like about it is like, this has stood the test of time. There's a timelessness. He's hitting those issues. He's going deep into humanity because this stuff took place 200 years ago or 150 years ago, but it's still it's still very, this is how people live today, and it's still the kind of things people struggle with today. But that doesn't mean, I think there's still stuff written more recently has more likelihood to be helpful to us. The other one I wanted to mention was Haruki Murakami. I like he wrote the Wind Up Bird Chronicle and Kafka on the Shore.
Okay.
And those are both like man, for me actually, like I was like 27. I read those, and at one point I was like, maybe I'm going to stop reading fiction because like it can't be done better than that. And then I did for a while. I stopped reading.
I do have those like fears with each like great book I read too. I can relate.
Yeah, it's right. It's like I guess that's reading it that's reading it not with the mindset of how to live your life, but that's reading it with like some kind of like imagined artiste, like it's perfect, as opposed to like these are accompaniments to life and not ultimate guides or something.
Well said.
Well, I'm working on it, man. Good. School is in session. I appreciate the the observations and thoughts. I think we're running out of. Although in a appreciation of a book like here, this thing. We should be glad to know. I think we're well into longest podcast ever in the longest Screenaholics podcast ever, which is appropriate for a 1,000 page book.
Okay, last question.
Yes.
Are you more or less likely to read the book or neither, and by what magnitude? From talking with me.
I will say twice as likely. Twice as likely. I will.
Is that 1 to 2% or 25 to 50%?
I will read it by the end of 2026.
Well, I'm not asking for a commitment. I mean,
damn it! Why'd I say that? All right, because I want to read. So I want to read The Brothers K again.
Nice.
I want to read. Nice. And then I was thinking about like my mom and I noticed. I noticed online, and I mentioned it to my mom, like there was some like Hilary Mantel trilogy. Are you familiar with it? It's like about Wolf Hall. They're like books about Oliver Cromwell, like fiction books about Oliver Cromwell. Okay. It's a trilogy. But there's some online book club about it. I was like, oh, we could take part in that. But I don't know. Now that I committed to reading Infinite Jest, I better not mail withdraw from the Hilary Mantel stuff.
Yeah, I definitely want to read Suttree by Cormac McCarthy.
Oh yeah, I haven't read any Cormac McCarthy. Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, that's cool because he might be the greatest American novelist of all time.
Yeah.
Especially when factoring in the number of bangers that he is said to have written. I've only read one, but like there's the issue with like Melville. Like I think Nabokov said of Melville that Melville only tried once with when writing, and that was Moby Dick. So it's like you read like, oh my god, this Moby Dick is not my greatest of all time, but it's one where if someone said that it's the greatest, I wouldn't like laugh at them. Right? It's that good. But it sucks to be like, oh my god, what a banger, and then it's like, oh wait, he never like wrote anything nearly as good as this. You don't get that from McCarthy. Is the reputation that like he writes a lot of like A- A level books.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. So Suttree and weirdly enough, even though maybe because I'm in a reread and not the first read of Infinite Jest, and the second one being that much easier, I'm like getting excited for Gravity's Rainbow. But I want to get into
Thomas
Pynchon.
Yeah. I haven't read him either. So, well, here's to happy reading going forward. Thank you, Mr. Trepanowski. It's a pleasure.
Gladly. Take care.